America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
All right, welcome everybody to another edition of our 2A Media Workshop. The idea here is that each Tuesday and each Saturday we take some time out and have a live panel discussion here to chat about Second Amendment and more specifically 2A media collaborations, sharing information, and learning from each other on the how-to, the nuts and bolts, and getting 2A content up there. So this week, we're going to be working on a couple of things, I guess. We have SHOT Show imminent, so of course we're going to talk about that and try to utilize that event, that yearly congregation, I guess, of all the 2A industry in one town for a week. So it's an opportunity where we're all together, and I've been a part of that for, I guess it'll also be our 14th year, and I've been able to kind of look up and pay attention to the evolution of the way media brings the show to an audience, the way the audience has awareness and interest in the show, and also the influence of technology and audience habit or trend or what would be the word, tastes to affect the show. In other words, the show has changed with technology and with audiences' interests, and vice versa. Of course, there's products and there's initiatives that can change public opinion, but I know that there's been influence both ways, and I don't know how often it's deliberate versus how often it just happens. But since that is a dynamic to this whole thing, my interest in the last few years has been to make more people aware of that concept, and ideally or potentially and hopefully this year, not just theoretically, we get 2A media to realize that we have an opportunity to be in the same city, the same physical place for many days, and there's all kinds of things that can be effectively done when you're face to face, and each individual has an opportunity to grow, but in addition to that, we have an opportunity to all pick up the rope and pull our Second Amendment and the rights protected by that Second Amendment in the same direction. And I continue to be optimistic that that'll be something that we'll be able to master and grasp and utilize. And when that happens, we'll see something like we saw in 2000, or I guess in 1994, with the results, the consequences to the assault weapons ban, and the way that people were voted right after to show their dissatisfaction with the way the representatives behaved and with the laws that they created. And once we gun owners, people that are interested in the Second Amendment, are not just united, but aware of our influence and have honed the skills to wield that influence, not only will we be left alone, but we'll be in a position where we have the opportunity to unify again our interests and our efforts to focus on things like maybe the removal of a 4473 or background checks altogether, challenging the Hughes Amendment and other aspects of the NFA, and removing the 68, or removing the burden of, or the hurdles to interstate firearms sales and purchasing. So things that have been infringed on us over the years aren't because they're better that way, and it aren't because of anything other than we haven't pushed them off of us. So I think we have plenty to achieve and lots of time and lots of potential, and these workshops are to foster all that. So I've been kind of blabbing here as I send out emails to, I'm trying to figure it out now, it must be about 47 people that I know in the industry that are also in media, and they're all invited. We've had different people from different aspects of 2A media. In other words, covering or creating content that has to do with our Second Amendment or the firearms. And we've had different people join in over the last weeks. And this last week before SHOT Show, of course, we have the most potential. So we'll see who jumps in. And we don't call anybody out specifically, but if they are listening and are too chicken to jump in, contact me. We can get you over those fears, get you over whatever technical issues you might have so that you can become part of this conversation, not just a conversation with the rest of us on the panel, but this is an effort towards the new media, the conversation, the influence, and the participation of the people watching this. So we run it on our biggest soapbox, which happens to be at the moment a YouTube channel. However, Night Strike is in here. We've been ignoring from GunTube. He's already has created a better version of this tool over on guntube.org. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then there's others efforting towards creating live platforms. We can all sit around waiting for that to happen, or we can participate in the creation of those, both financially and in other ways to support individuals who have the two-way mindset, who are technically savvy enough and then have the time and effort towards these projects. We have the ability with them to have options, but right now we're on the YouTube, so that means we have a YouTube chat, and then we're simulcasting this over at gunchannels.com. Gunchannels.com is a community that we created with a bunch of people back 5 years, going on our 6 years now, and it's a bunch of tools and calendars and things to do at a place called gunchannels.com. And one of the things we have over there is a live text chat for anybody that happens to be watching while we're live like this, or any of the other shows that are live. And that's how I got Night Strike the link to this. Gary should have a link. I'll throw him a link just in case, though. And anybody else that might want to jump in is welcome. And I guess I started to say tonight we'll be talking, or this afternoon we're talking about SHOT Show related stuff. But since nobody from SHOT Show is in here yet, we're also going to talk about websites, building a two-way website. And a couple of people that we know from Gun Channels and from Out and About have a website. Not everyone is using the same software. There's no need for everyone to use the same software, but Night Strike offers hosting, and we're going to take a look at how to start from zero and get a website up and running. And we should be able to do that in less than a half an hour, even with us mansplaining the whole thing. So Night Strike, thanks for jumping in. South Carolina, owner and creator of guntube.org. Thanks for jumping in.
Thank you, owner and creator of gunchannels.com.
Right on. I might own the domain name, but I'm not the creator of it. Gun Channels is an effort by about a dozen people that were sick of the anonymous participation of trolls, I guess is the easiest way to describe it, but people with anonymous accounts that might be any age or any country, and we're able to use the YouTube platform to derail and distract any kind of conversation that was going on. So a bunch of us, Matt.
Okay, insert unsung hero of Gun Channels then.
Yeah, well, all I did is put some code online, but what I'm getting at is I'm often attributed to like somehow deciding one day Gun Channels should exist. I was simply a person who had the ability, like you, to throw code on the internet that could do something that was needed. And like I said, there was a bunch of people that were frustrated with this concept of an anonymous platform where anybody can just jump in from anywhere in the world in any age and with any intent and derail conversations, distract, and in effect, just cause chaos. And we created a place where there was a barrier to entry. It was $1 a month to join at the beginning, and that was simply to create a financial burden or a hurdle for anybody who just wanted to jump in and cause trouble. So it was effective, and a bunch of people would throw down $1 a month on PayPal, and it was a horrible mess. So it was by no means like, hey, let's create a thing and then let's roll up our sleeves and build it one afternoon and then let's profit ever since. It's been a quagmire of learning and coding and whatever, and that's why I just wanted to take a second there and not just dismiss it. Same way when we say GunTube, like Night Strike just sat down one day and typed in guntube.org, and then his computer said, okay, and then here's GunTube just magically pooped into the screen.
No, it's a lot of hard work, but because you shown me a great example of what you can do if you persevere with the community. I'm going to put that same amount of effort into GunTube and keep GunTube running as long as I can.
Right on. So one of the ways you're trying to do that is by offering hosting. So we're going to talk about that a bit today. Gary just jumped in from Kansas. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So people are welcome to join in. And if you're listening to this conversation, you're one of the 40-something people I send the email to, and you're timid or you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to come in because I already don't know about this, or I don't care about this or something, come in and change the conversation, especially if you're going to SHOT Show. A very limited amount of time before we're there, and it's ridiculous to not be acquainted with each other and each other's projects, so that when we are at the event next week that we're all paying a lot of money for, so that we can hit the ground running and we're not sitting around being awkward or wasting our time having chit chat at a place that it costs us a lot of money to be there. So feel free to jump in and change the conversation. But anyway, Night Strike is trying to effort to pay for guntube.org, which is by no means cheap. And one of the ways you're trying to do that is by offering hosting. So I'm always tentative about getting into this, especially when we put the premise out there. This is for basics, right?
Right.
Like anybody who knows the nuts and bolts, where do we draw lines and where do we just, kind of get a bird's eye view of stuff instead of getting too technical. So there's 3 things you're going to need for a website. If you sat down tomorrow and said, I'm going to need a website, and there's 3 things that are necessary. Gary, I want you to participate as well. So probably, I'm assuming, coming at this from someone who's not daily into it, like Night Strike and myself. When you decided to get a website, what did you use for resource to figure out what it encompassed?
Well, I mean, I'd had websites before. I knew I needed to go to a place where I could get a domain name because I needed that to start with. And so I had to find out whether my domain name was available or not. And once I did that, then you have to purchase a domain.
And that's the whatever.com or .org or whatever you're going to have.
Right. You have to decide what you want to have. I chose .com. But you can do a whole lot of different things.
There's a lot of choices out there.
So that we could literally talk forever. So just to keep going with the general, so a domain name, and then what else?
And then you have to figure out where you want to host it. You have to have somebody to host your site. There's places you can do it for free, and then there's places you have to pay to host.
So that we're staying basic, and so that Night Strike and I don't get off on, because there's no way we could simplify it. How do you define hosting, Gary?
Hosting is the website or the place on the internet where your page is going to reside, where all your files, where all your documents are going to reside, and then in the end, your URL will redirect to that site, and that's how your website gets displayed. So first, you have to have a name for it. Secondly, you have to have a repository or a place to store your website, and that's the host.
Right on. And then lastly, so now you've got your domain name, and you have to buy that. We're capitalists, so we purchase that. Like you talked about, you have to see if it's available somewhere. There's lots of ways to do that, and then you own it. You own that for a length of time, right?
Right.
And then you have to find a place to put it. So you've acquired hosting. And again, there's lots of opportunities there and options. We'll talk about that to any length people want to. But that's what Night Strike's offering. And then what's the third piece?
Well, third is building your website. And you're going to need some sort of software, whether your host provides it or whether it's something you download. But you need some sort of software in order to build your website. Something that puts everything in a logical place, builds the pages, puts all the code in so that your page displays correctly for people.
Right on. That sounds super complicated. Did you find it to be complicated?
No, really. But then again, I'd had a little bit of experience, but really the software I used wasn't too complicated. It's just a matter, you kind of want to have an idea how you want everything laid out. You know, there's some stuff you're going to put on the main page. You might want to have sub pages for different things and stuff like that. But you know, you kind of want to have a picture in your head of what you want it to look like. And most of the time, they'll kind of give you templates or things to guide you through, and you can use those. I did.
Okay, now we're getting into details again. So I think that was a great synopsis of it. I attempt to do it, and I know I fail at it, and I'm assuming Night Strikes had the same experience because, again, there's so much to this, and it's changed over the years, which is awesome. That's the main thing you want to get across, is that a lot of times this might sound taunting or complicated. And we're about to show you everything from that Gary just described there, and it shouldn't take us very long at all, even mansplaining the whole thing along with it. So it's getting easier all the time, and while it might, again, seem like a task, it's something that once you've accomplished it, what you end up with, the resource that you have, is your own place online. Now, people say once it's on the internet, it's permanent, but what does that mean? So the internet, there's multiple entities out there that record the entire internet, that take snapshots of the internet more than once a day. So very few things are online that are ignored, especially things that have their own place, their own identity, and the domain name is something, you know, that we're talking about. So as soon as you have your own place online, whatever project you might be doing, or effort, or product, or, you know, area of interest you might want to be promoting, once you've created your own domain name, now you've got a permanent thing that even without your effort or costs or, you know, anything, will be recorded for all time. And I think that has value, and it's often just either not thought about or overlooked. But that is something that you're starting to create stuff online that'll be there forever. And eventually, there's no reason to believe that computers are going to stop getting smarter, and that you know, things are going to slow down, and they're probably going to go the other way. So you're actually creating, you know, the future right here. So I think there's lots of value in what people are creating out there, and this is an effort at leaving a permanent record and result of what you're up there working on, right? Everybody should have links in their email. I know that I send out a lot of them to, like, a lot of people blind email. So check your, if you're talking about Tony from New Jersey. Artisan Tony has a link too. So check your spams. You might get them as spams. Did you guys both get an email from me?
I did. I just got it just a few minutes ago.
Okay, so maybe it's going throttled because I had so many blind.
Yeah, I haven't got one.
Okay, you were in the list too, so it might be that I'm sending out too many blind copies too often or something. I'll work on that.
Or it just might be the tubes are slow.
Yeah, I might set it up as a newsletter going forward. But anybody that's out there, if you don't have a link, grab one on Gun Channels. But yeah, I think I'll screen share here, and we set one up yesterday, a domain called Charleston Loophole. So what's her face wants to go around acting like individual sales are somehow a problem, and they want to give that a name so they can persecute it, and they're attempting to call the individual transfer of property a Charleston loophole. Actually, the Charleston loophole is supposed to be the 3-day wait. So because government is tasked with doing too much stuff, and they want to be able to pass laws that they can't actually, you know, deal with. They want to create laws that have infrastructure that they can't pay for, or that can't support, you know, what they expect. They've put in a thing in the creation of the NICS that said, if in 3 days we can't find you, then go ahead and let the firearm get transferred. Doesn't mean that they're not going to still prosecute someone who's, you know, purchasing a firearm illegally if they figure it out. It just means that in 3 days, the vast majority, the 90-something 9% of the people that are falsely bottlenecked during the NICS are able to process through and you know, purchase their property or pick up their property. Anyway, Clinton was trying to you know, create a new anti catchphrase with Charleston loophole. So whenever that was a thing, I decided to just buy charlestonloophole.com. Plenty of lazy people out there are just going to type in Charleston loophole if she ever says stuff. And the idea was to create something that challenges the concept and educates people to the real deal on things like that. So I've got maybe a dozen domains that are the .coms for whatever little things like this that they've created. Charleston loophole is one of them. So hadn't been doing anything with it. It would be great if we had the resources to have all of them up and running all the time, but we don't. So Night Strike's offered some hosting for that, so we can use it as an example. So I've got Professor Puppy up here. Night Strike, if you were to send me, if someone was to set up an account with you, they would let you know what domain name they wanted. You would tell them how to talk to the person that they bought the domain name from to basically point the name at your computer, your server, your host. You're going to send them an email. Did you already send me a link to whatever, or are you going to give me a link in the internal here and we'll open up?
Yeah, you should have gotten an email last night. Could you check your spam filter to make sure you got one? Which is what you should do whenever you get hosting from any company, because they send you a couple emails at a time, and sometimes those emails get stuck in the spam filter.
Tell me on the side which email you sent them to. I got a lot of emails. So in other words, when you sign up for something like anything, you're going to get emails that say, here you go. And that's what we're going to start from here as soon as I find my email. Yeah. Just give me the link in the side chat then, because I'm not finding the email, I guess.
Okay. I'll just...
I'm getting a lot of emails from SHOT Show right now.
I'm sure you are. I'll just give you the login information and you can go from there, all right? Because it's easy peasy.
Yeah.
Because I gave it to you last night on gun channels as well.
I remember you giving it to me there. Let me see if I still got that in the thing.
I mean, I can resend it that way if you want me to.
All right. So go here.
Yep.
All right, yep. So he's going to send me an email once I start up an account or whatever, right? And then let me throw Tony a link over here. See him sitting on gun channels. And then I got to go back and grab my stuff. So we're going to get an email, and it's going to have a link to, go somewhere to start your hosting or whatever. And then I'm going to put in my
your username and password. I do not do that live.
It's going to be on here.
Yeah, you don't want to show everybody your username and password. Okay, just FYI. But everyone gets the idea. They know what a username and password is, so we're good.
Probably. All right, so then that gets us into a control panel. So this is a way to control all kinds of stuff that you can, but you don't probably need to worry about with your hosting. So the hosting is just a computer that's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, connected to the internet. Like Gary said, you're going to put your website on it, and you've taken your domain name and you pointed to it. So it's just a computer that's going to run your website. So now we got to put the website on it. And let's see, we're going to scroll down and look for
Softaculous auto installer right there.
So basically, there's lots and lots of potential. I could build a little Craigslist on here. I could build a blog. I could build a video hosting platform. Whatever I decide to build, got to start somewhere. And this Scriptaculous is all different kinds of software. So when you get hosting with Night Strike, you got the potential to
install tons of stuff.
Just do all different kinds of things with your website. Now, a lot of the internet at this point, I don't know, does anybody know off the top of their head how much of the internet is using WordPress at this point?
I would say I would give an estimate about 80%.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it ain't perfect, but what it is open source, and there's a lot of people who want to see it continue and thrive. So you've got a lot of people efforting to keep it going. So we're going to install WordPress for this demo, and if somebody has questions about something else, there's experience in this room now with lots of that stuff. Oh, Tony just jumped out, but when Tony jumps back in, we got a lot of different experience out there. So let's say, so we're installing WordPress, and it's every installer is going to look very, very similar to something like this. So the version number can be ignored. It's no big deal. Like what version, just go with the most recent. And then if I had, let's say, 10 or 15 or 2 or 5 different domain names, and I had them all pointed to Night Strike server, I would have to choose which one. In this case, we only have the one. So there's Charleston loophole is already set for us. What directory? We're just going to put it in no directory.
In the main directory, so just keep that. blank.
Yeah, so we could install, let's say, WordPress as our blog on this website, but then we also wanted to install from this list of all these cool packages over here. Maybe we've heard of one that's a good, I'm trying to say, like an image gallery. So maybe we're going to put the blog under Charleston Loophole /blog, or maybe this is going to be like a 2A blog. So we're going to put it under 2A blog. And now when people want to go to our WordPress, they're going to go to Charleston Loophole /2A blog. So that would be a useful or necessary if you were going to do multiple things with your website. We're just going to do the one thing. So like Nice Strike said, we'll just delete whatever's there. That way when people go to Charleston Loophole, they're actually going straight to our WordPress and there's no extra hurdles or anything to them. Then we can give it a name. In this case, we'll call it the same thing, right? Charleston Loophole.
Absolutely.
So that's basically just, you know, I don't know, for whatever reason, let's say you had it called, you know, something another .xyz, and then you called it, you know, 123 instead. Who cares? And then the sub description is just another thing. So I like to put in there is no.
There isn't. There really isn't.
All right. So we want to give it a
there's
name.
an E, Charleston.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a good speller of things.
That's why I'm here to help you out.
He's not normally going to spell check your stuff for you, though, I don't think. So now
no, I can't spell check everybody.
So we're creating the WordPress itself. The first thing we'll need to create is, or the first account we'll need to create is an admin. So we'll just leave it at admin. And then you can just have it generate a password over here. And like Night Strike said, I can keep generating passwords over here. I'll just do this off air real quick so that nobody knows what the hell the password happens to be. And then I guess I'll also write it down, which is usually a good idea, so that I know what the password is.
And then we'll scroll down a little bit further, right?
Yeah, I'm just doing this off this page here for a second, and then I'll grab a new password. You got to put notes here over here too. Oh, he's having connection issues or what? Okay. All right, so this is the boring part where I'm just putting in the user info, and then I'll just scroll down like you said so that you don't have to see all that. Now it'll say a couple of extra things here. What language? Guess what? We're going to leave it in English.
I would tick those two.
Limit logon attempts. So basically this is going to say, do you want it to where like you only get 3 logon attempts and then you get paused for a while? That it stops a robot from messing with it. And then classic editor. No, we're not going to put the classic. We'll go to the new stuff.
Oh, you like the new stuff? Okay. I like the classic.
No, I don't like the new stuff, but the new stuff is where we're going. So I don't want people to learn old stuff. You know what I'm saying? So we'll stay with the classic. So basically what we're talking about here is that this WordPress software is open source and it does change over time. And it recently went from sort of a classic version to a new version. It literally changed a lot of its design and the way that you interface with it, the way that you use it. And because it's been recent and it's a major change, they're allowing people that are installing to install the old version of the editor. We're going to go with the new version of the editor. That's what Night Strike and I were just talking about. So we got some advanced options, it looks like, and that would be the name of the database. It's probably not too important unless you're doing some other stuff. The
I
auto
would just leave that auto.
Yeah, I like the auto upgrade because that'll automatically upgrade the pieces, so you don't have to pay attention. If something necessary comes along, and you're on vacation or something, you don't have to worry about it. However, anytime you put something to automatic, you wake up one day and your site's a little different. That's because you told it to automatically update. So every once in a while, an update, you experienced updates on your phone or on something else. Every once in a while, they're a nuisance, but for the most part, it's better to just leave those things automatic. As far as backups and stuff, depending on how large a project you're going to work on, you're going to have a lot of time and effort in there. So you're going to want to have available to back it up. There's services and systems to do that. That's a little bit more advanced than we're going to get into this time, but that's something that we can dig into for larger projects. And then with your installation, it lets you pick a theme right away. So that's kind of cool, but I'm going to ignore that because I don't think every installer is going to allow you this step. So we'll just act like it wasn't here, and we'll do that manually.
Only Soft Aculus allows this.
Okay. And then that's it. So then we'll hit install, and it'll go through and create a version of WordPress on this hosting computer that we're buying off of Night Strike. And now it created everything, and it gives us the website here, which will be very basic and nuts and bolts because it's brand new and there's nothing in it. And then it'll give you some things like just to be a placeholder. Let's say it'll say like recent posts and that kind of thing, but basically empty. And then the login information, or the place to log in. And when we created this thing, it created a the first user, the admin user, and that's how we're into the dashboard now. All right, so we'll take a minute here to pause and get some feedback from people that are watching. We don't need to shove this stuff down people's throats, and we do have other things going on in the world. So this workshop is, an effort in conversation. So Tony just jumped in. I don't know if you were having trouble or what was going on there, but it sounds like you're in here now.
Yes, it kept saying that I was the only one in the Hangout. So I signed out of my Google account and signed back in, and it worked. So.
So we got Tony jumping in. We got Gary up in Kansas. Tony's in Chattanooga. Gary's up in Kansas. Is over in South Carolina. I'm out here in Arizona. We've got links out there to probably another 40-something people that are 2A media. And we've been setting up a website. So I'm going to shut up, let you guys talk, and I'll start reading the comments that are coming in and see if anybody's got specific questions or anything we might want to hit.
All right. Yeah, so what do you want us to talk about again? Just whatever about websites?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I had a question for you, Nice Strike.
What's up, Tony?
What you're going to start offering hosting? Is that what it is?
Yeah, shared web hosting. Yes.
Shared. Oh, that's cool.
I'm sure I mentioned this before, that I do offer it for clients already, as part of my IT consultant business, but I may not have mentioned that I'm going to do it separately as a separate business. So,
and specifically to 2A organizations and projects, right?
Yeah.
So that
it's going to be specifically for 2A endeavors. But if Joe Blow finds my website and says I need hosting for my domain, okay, I'll host it. I'm not going to be exclusive. I'm not going to say, oh, because you're not a Second Amendment project, you can't get hosted. No, I'll sell hosting to anybody as long as they want to pay for it.
I know you're not Strike props for something. He hooked me up with this company that has dedicated servers pretty cheap, so I was able to move from a VPS to a dedicated server, which is really nice. Thank you, Night Strike.
No problem, man.
So we're going to get a little bit more complicated than the basics, but when we talked about a host, we talked about it being a computer that's just on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 a year, and it's just on, and it has your website on it. Well, there's more to it than that, of course. The computer that's running all the time with your website on it probably isn't a computer with just your website on it. That would be a lot of money compared to your website on a computer is like having one image on a computer. Like it's very, very, very small compared to what a computer can handle. And unless your project is very large, it can deal like a million hands of cards at a time. You don't, if this was a casino, you're just one of the games of cards going on, and the computer that you're hosting it from is the dealer. That thing can keep track of many, many, many games at one time. So when you go to a hosting company and like Night Strike and say, hey, I want to host my website on one of your computers, he's not buying a whole separate computer and setting it aside for just your website. He's putting your website on a computer with, I don't know, other projects. So that's not really a big deal for 99% of things, but every once in a while, if you are doing something large enough or private enough or whatever enough that it deems its own server, then that's what Tony was talking about, going from a shared, part of a hard drive on a computer that a lot of people use versus a data center, a place that has an internet connection and good power supplies. the dedicated servers, when they literally take a computer and say, this one is Artisan Tony's computer, put it on the rack and turn it on, and that's Tony's computer. What he does on there is his thing. They maintain it, they run it, they make sure that it's on 24/7, but they're not in there poking around, and you don't have to worry about Night Strike sitting next to you. It's just your computer, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the problems I ran into was trying to be on a shared situation was you really need to talk to Night Strike about what you want to do, or whoever you're hosting with, what you want to do with that website. Because if you want to, have a video sharing platform or something like that, it's going to take a lot more resources than a shared situation. So you need to inform the person that you're hosting with what you want to do with the website.
You don't necessarily need to inform them. You just need to ask them if what you want to do is possible with their system. And,
that's what I meant. Yeah.
And if it's not, then you have to look for other avenues.
Yeah, and it'll cost a lot. Obviously, just like anything, if you only need a little piece, you're going to pay a little bit. If you need a big piece or the whole piece, you're going to pay accordingly. Sometimes it goes the other way. As soon as you buy enough, then you're getting them back at wholesale because you're buying so much that they can afford to, whatever. So it's like anything that you pay for. You got to pay for what you need.
Yeah.
All right. So we were basically going through. We already acquired the domain name, and I went to the place where I acquired the domain name and pointed it to Night Strike servers last night, and then Night Strike set it all up. So it only took hours, and that we did all that last night. So that's where we started this from, but it would basically be from the point where you set up an account with Night Strike and he sent you an email. That email would have a link to a page with your login information, and that's where we started this demo or this project. So that's pretty much where we're at. So we're looking at the dashboard of the whole thing, and now we're looking at the viewer side, the public side of it. And since it's empty, there's not much to it. It looks kind of blah. So what we do see here is the name that we gave it, and then that sub name or whatever, the second name, and then just a bunch of placeholder stuff. So when we go back into the dashboard, like a lot of interfaces, you're going to get a kind of a general information thing on the main dashboard. You've got a menu that digs into the various aspects or the various things that you can, switches you can flip, and then you've got some settings and things. So we'll go through and take a look at the menu first. WordPress started out as a blog. So I think of WordPress, I describe WordPress as a bunch of pages, which are like blog posts or articles. And those pages are organized, they're a bunch of posts. I'm already messing it up. There's a bunch of posts, and those posts are like blog posts or pictures or individual articles. Those posts are arranged by pages. So you create pages that might be of a topic or a category, and then as you post things, they get organized into those pages. So you organize your website with pages, and you fill those pages with posts. In concept, in theory, that's how WordPress started, and that's how its dashboard is set up. However, it's a lot like an erector set, and what you see in the menu and the way that it's kind of designed as far as it's laid out is to show you whatever the picture is on the front of the erector set. But just like an erector set or a Lego set, whatever the picture is they showed you on the cover is one of about 1 billion variations of what you can build. So it's really a very manipulable system, very much like a set of Legos or a set of an erector set or something. So the way that it's organized and the way that they've set it up here is with its picture on the cover, which is a blog, really. But you can turn that blog into a Craigslist. You can turn it into a used car thing. You can turn it into a real estate thing. You can turn it into a menu or a recipe website. You can do restaurant reviews. Like, there's a billion things you can do with a website that are, uses the infrastructure of WordPress, but then elaborates on it a lot. Let's see. Okay, so you guys are talking about something else inside there. So what we're looking at is the main page, and then we're going to go through the menu here. So there's the posts. Again, it's a bunch of posts, and this is where you organize them and create them. Those posts can be enhanced with pictures or maybe a music file or a video or something. So they have a place to put media and to organize it. And then they've got the pages, which is what organizes the website. There's comments. So an aspect of WordPress is the communication with the audience. And that's a whole nother conversation because that's a pretty elaborate portion of this whole thing. You've got the appearance, what it's going to look like. I think Gary and Night Strike both kind of touched on themes before. Themes are plugins or skins that you wrap around the structure to give it the look. And you can get very elaborate or you can get very simple, as well as customize any of those themes. So next we get to plugins. Plugins are functionality that you can add to WordPress. And again, if we wanted to turn it into more like a Craigslist or turn it into a place to vote on different recipes or something, the plugins are the functionality that we could add to do all those things. I've got a website that's just calendar, right? The gun calendars. So instead of looking like a blog or something, it looks like a calendar, right? That's due to a plugin. A plugin creates that functionality, so you can alter what WordPress does with plugins. And then you get users. So like right now, we created one user as we were creating the system on Night Strike's host, but I could go in here and create a user for Gary and a user for Tony. And those users can be set to different levels, like administrator or author or editor. And then they can have different roles in your project or in your organization, whatever it might be. You got tools, which are a whole nother topic, but basically more functionality and tools, like it says. Settings are where you're going to put in some general stuff, and that's usually where I'll start a tutorial like this. And then whatever the stuff is just here nor there. That's just collapsing the menu and then some kind of security thing you got on here. So we'll stop again and see if anybody's got any specific questions real quick. It doesn't look like anybody's saying anything on the gun channel side. And
yeah, please, guys, if you have questions about building a website or about just build anything regarding building a website, please ask questions. We're here to answer your questions.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
I use a different, I know this is a WordPress thing, and I'm not going to bring up the other types of content management systems, but I was curious, since I use a different content management system, how would someone like produce an article and embed a YouTube video in it? I mean, I know how to do that on mine, but I don't know how you do that on WordPress.
Right on. Yeah, we'll talk about that, but I'm going to finish kind of going through setting it up and then.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were going through a particular process. I came in late. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no worries. We're just starting from like when Night Strike, you get the agreement with Night Strike and you get the hosting to taking it to look like something. But then as soon as we make it look like something, we need to show how to use it. So we'll do that here in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, what Tony's talking about is back when we first got the email from Night Strike, we went into a thing called Softaculous, which is just whatever the word they use to describe this menu. And this menu has blogs like WordPress in it. Look at how many different blogs there are. Then they've got content management systems, which I think what Tony's talking about, which are more elaborate than blogs. Instead of just being posts, which are organized by pages, these give you all kinds of functionality that you organize as modules. And this is similar to what Gun Channels is made on, or what Full 30 is made on, or what Tony's projects have been made on. And there's lots of different ones. Again,
I use Joomla, yeah.
Most of these are open source, so lots of people are involved in making sure that they're successful, and it also means lots of people are playing with them in different ways. It can be frustrating sometimes, but more often it's very advantageous to have something that's open source for stuff like this. You've seen forums. The main forums are all in here, so if you wanted to have your own forum on an area of interest or something, or for an organization or something you're in, then Night Strike could. That same hosting that we're doing here with WordPress could be used, and I could install a simple machines forum or a PHP BB. Those are two most often seen forums out there. Very similar to the way that we're installing the software, setting it up, and then we're going to fluff it up a little bit. Same thing with the forums. You set it up, you give it your topics and stuff, and then you fluff it up a little bit with your CMS systems, your content management systems. You build the overall structure. Again, like Night Strike was saying, have some idea of what you want in mind. You go in there and you build it up, you fluff it up and make it look the way you want. and then you start running with it. So very similar.
Basically, Softaculous is just an automatic script installer. So that means, you click a few buttons and bam, you've got, the software installed, and all you need to do is just configure it.
Okay, so then we got a question from Enrique on the YouTube side, I'm guessing. It says, I have a GoDaddy account. I paid for a domain name, which is what we basically did prior to this starting of this demo. And then how do I implement WordPress? So what I did is I went to that GoDaddy. Let's say GoDaddy is the person you bought the domain from. They're a place up in Phoenix. I've been doing it for a long time. You buy the domain from somebody. They're going to say, what do you want to do with that domain name? Do you want us to run it? They love to run it for you. So they're always going to offer, hey, we'll just do everything for you. But then you can choose, no, I'd rather have Nightstrike do it. And then they're going to say, they're going to give you these two numbers, and they're going to say, what are his two numbers? And they're called DNS, doesn't matter what they are. And then Nightstrike gives them to you in his email. You tell your person that you bought the domain name from, point them at these two numbers. And in effect, you're telling them, forward all my calls. Anytime somebody comes to this domain name, forward them over to Nightstrike. Nightstrike's computer says, oh, anything comes in from these two numbers and this name, they want this WordPress instance, or they want this forum, or whatever it is you have installed. Nightstrike does the call forwarding, or the whatever that's called, the operator effort there, and moves everything over, and your site is hosted, and that's all you need to do with your registrar, the person you pay the domain name from. You only need to deal with them once a year to renew your name. I don't think you don't do domain names, do you, Nightstrike? Do you sell domain names?
I could if I wanted to, but at the current point in time, I do not, because of the initial investment I need to do.
Yeah, and when I've been doing consulting and work for people, I always recommend buy your own name, because let's say 6 months from now, Nightstrike goes anti-gun. He goes crazy about the infringements, and you're like, I don't want to host with him anymore. You don't want to have your name with him also, just because that's another thing you got to go, deal with. So keep your own name. Always keep your own name, no matter what your project is. And then your hosting and everything else, you go to that wherever you bought your name and you point to your hosting. So if your hosting turns into a big jerk, you can point it to someplace else. Or if your hosting turns out to be a fly-by-night, or they turn anti-gun, or whatever it happens to be.
Right.
I've got that up on my screen on GoDaddy G-Webs if you want me to show it. It's just where to put the pointer.
I don't know. I don't see it on your screen, and
no, not screen sharing.
But I don't know if we need to get into that. I'm trying to be general as possible.
Oh, I thought we were trying to do like the university thing.
We don't want to mansplain. Is what we were trying to do, or doxplain.
There's so much that can sound daunting. I'm trying to make it as basic as possible. There's these 3 steps. You get the domain, and as far as how to point it, every single company you go to is going to be technically a little bit different control panel, but in general, there's these 2 numbers they're going to want you to point. And that's, if anybody has any specific trouble with that, I'm sure if you've got Nightstrike as a host, he will help you with that on a one-by-one basis.
We can at least tell them it's name servers. We can at least use the proper terminology so they'll know what to ask for when they go to GoDaddy. They want to know where to point their name servers. That's what they want to do at GoDaddy or wherever.
Your mic is sounding weird.
My mic is sounding weird.
Doesn't it?
You're sounding a bit lower. Did your voice get a bit lower?
I don't know. Maybe my mic is
clear. It's clear. Sounds like you had a stroke or something. It's all slow.
Oh, I was just trying to sound educational because we're doing a university thing.
No, I think it's a reverb or something.
No, I think it's a
unnatural kind of echoey sound. Anyhow, we're going through. We looked at the menu now, and we haven't really done anything. All we've done is set it up and then paused here and talked about a bunch of different things, which is probably not conducive to trying to make this simple. But unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. This is tough to make simple, I think, sometimes. Yeah, I hear you, dude. I'm just giving you feedback on your mic. So let's see. So now we got to dig in. I personally don't like looking at all this stuff, so I just minimize all these things so I don't have to look at them. But depending on your level of interest on the various like help or guides that they might have, Once you start creating some functionality, you'll get some things out here that you've asked for. So the dashboard might be more useful to you. But right now, this is just some of the basic, like, hey, you've never used this before. Here's what everybody else in the world thinks. And here's some news from the world or whatever. And unless you're really into WordPress, all of this stuff is just basic boilerplate stuff. So I just minimize it all. And it's one less thing to look at when you first log in. So let's see. First, we have to start somewhere. So I like to start at settings, and there's a couple of things to deal with there. This is where you can edit your name and your tagline in case you did something or you want to change that. This is also where you change a whole bunch of other things that we don't need to change right now, but as any system, there's, settings and things. You can get into reading, and that one's not important. Sorry, discussion here though. This one is pretty vital. We talked about comments before. WordPress is designed to allow conversation with an audience, and depending on how you're going to use your site, you're going to get spam. So if you open it up to discussion and then you don't monitor it or don't do anything to put like a spam filter on it, what you'll get is a lot of people abusing an open place. It's basically putting an open shelf on the internet. You're going to get lots of people that discover that. They snoop around looking for those open shelves, and then you're going to get just weird spam about, I don't know, some learning system or some steam cleaner in Bangladesh or a enchilada farm in someplace. Just weird spam will start to accumulate, and you get gross stuff in there, and just just clutter. So what you can do if you're not going to be immediately using your site to do feedback with an audience is uncheck this box, and that will, in effect, turn off comments for everything site-wide. It allows people to comment on articles. So by disallowing that, there is no commenting on your website. If you're going to leave that checked, if you want to get into the whole conversation with, if you're going to put a post up there, or you're going to have an area of your website as a page, and you want to have discussion there, then you'd leave this checked, of course. But then we'll take a look at some of the plugins. You're going to want additional functionality to help you effort to keep that spam out of there and to remove the spam that does get in there. And that'll be a full-time job. So I like to eliminate it. We built gun channels so that we have a place to have communication that doesn't require a bunch of robots protecting us from other robots and stuff. So I'm just making that clear that we're turning off comments right here, which is eliminating a big nuisance, a big headache, or a big thing that'll pull your hair out if you leave that on and you deal with comments. With the different various social media platforms that are out there, remember this was built long time ago before there were social media platforms. You can do more effective communication on platforms, in my opinion, than you can solely on your own place, unless you're huge. If you were Yankee and you decided to leave YouTube, or if you were Hickok and you decided to leave YouTube, you could just have a website with comments and spend your time, dealing with them. But that's a specific situation. I don't think most people are going to want to have to deal with the 24-hour spam issue for the occasional comment that might come in.
No, I usually turn comments off too, because my IT consulting business, the website for that uses WordPress. It's updated to the latest version as well. And I just keep comments off because it's a website for my business. We're not supposed to be taking comments. We have email for that.
It really depends on how much feedback you want to get, though, because, if you've got like a little social media thing you've got going on, you might want to have comments. But if you're just wanting to put out information one way, then you don't need comments. So it really depends on what type of WordPress you want to run.
Right.
Well, what's in the project, yeah, and that's the thing. So where I'm saying that if you're going to want to get feedback on a thing you put out, an article or something, you can do that more effectively on like a gun channels or on a Facebook or on an Instagram, where there's already a system in place, and it stops like the Bangladesh stuff, like just the crazy spam. That's just, there's no way to, it's a flood of it. There's just so much of it. I mean, you'll go in and I'll build a site and I'll forget to uncheck this. Come back a day later and there's like 1,000 things, and it just takes time to delete 1,000 things. You can only do like 127 at a time before the average size of spam like works in a database thing. So it's a real pain to just sit there and manually delete them, and it costs money to have things filter spam from an open comment thing. can cost you $25 per name, per domain name. And if you only got one project, totally worth the money to have a spam filter, make sure everything that gets posted is legit first, because it'll save you hours of time every day. But if you can't afford the $25, you're literally going to be sitting there for sometimes an hour a day just to delete spam on one account, especially if they find that it's open and they do whatever they do to alert the rest of the world that there's an open place to put stuff. Like I say, that's all. We could have whole discussions on it, and I'm not suggesting that going to the social media platforms is somehow better. I just think for comments, it's a more realistic solution today.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, unless the nature of your website needs actual comments or input, it's better not to have them on.
And then that's the thing. If you are building something bigger, like a community, then you do it in a different way. You have a login where only members who are logged in can comment, and then you do something to make sure robots don't, create accounts. And that doesn't cost anything.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest, is set permissions so that only registered users can use the comments. Because, I mean, if you're just trying to do like a blog where you're just trying to send information out to people, and you're not trying to do some sort of, community-based thing, but you can't just really expect people to come to your website if they can't participate in it. You know what I mean? And if you're trying to build a community, like imagine going to gun channels and you can't comment.
Oh my God. I don't want to imagine that.
Oh no, you're right. When you've got multiple things going on, then that would just be annoying. But it depends. So anyway, that's the discussion tab of the settings thing. And as you can see, there's definitely more to any of this, and that's why I wanted to try having workshops every Tuesday and every Saturday. Thanks to our Patreon people, we're able to do this so that we can get into these. But this is more of a general for people that are like, hey, let's talk about this website thing I hear so much about. So that's just one of the settings, and then the next one is media. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. Permalinks, though, is an interesting one. When you start to build your site up, so I start to put a page, let's say on this charlestonloophole.com/something. By default, it goes to like robot code, like date, blah blah blah, and all this. I don't know why it goes there by default. You can choose to have it be even worse, robot code, or you can have it be regular English. So now if I put up a page called, Artisan Tony, then it's going to be Charleston Loophole /Artisan Tony and not Charleston Loophole /archive/123 or blah 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 /date
Right.
blah blah blah. So unless you're doing some kind of robot inventory system or something as a store or something, like some kind of project that needs it, I recommend going in, and one of the first things is flip your what is this called, like nomenclature, or there's a word for the way that your links are described as regular names, and it's pretty obvious here, the one that just looks like plain old regular name, and that's the last check the last thing you have to really play around with in settings, is basically turning off the ability for robots to just flood it with garbage, and then the permalinks. Depending on what you're doing, there's some other stuff in here. Like I say, it's always hard to know when to shut up about some of these things. So now we've got the site effectively doesn't look any different. Nothing changed as far as the user or the experience of the visitor. All we've done is change a couple of internal things that have no real consequence yet. So the next thing we need to do is give it an appearance, and or at least the next thing that can be done is look at the appearance. So right now it's got a theme that's not very fancy and there's nothing in it, so it looks very, very basic. So when we go to the appearance section of the menu, the tools here, we can see that there's 3 templates or 3 themes already installed. Right now it's set up to this one called 2019, which looks stupid, and we're going to flip it over to one called 2017 and click activate, and it's that easy. So now if we go back over to the public view, what the viewer sees, and hit refresh, it's already different because we've already activated that theme. They happen immediately. And you can see that it's the same old nothing in here, but it's laid out differently, and they put a picture of a cactus or whatever there. And, it automatically looks all fancy, like somebody put a lot of attention to it. We didn't do anything. All we did is click on one of these other ones. So now we're going to click on 2016, a different one, and click activate. And believe it or not, when we go over here and we click refresh, it's going to look different again. And now, there's no picture. It's still got the nothing, but it's organized and arranged differently on the page.
Themes do help.
Yeah, themes are good and bad, and I don't want to get into themes because that can be a whole nother quagmire. They are not your saviors. They're not perfect, and they can be horrible, horrible, horrible things. So what I'm going to do is just leave it on this one called 2016, which was just the basic theme that they gave you back in 2016, and then delete these others. So I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to delete this last one. And I do that for two reasons. One, we're not using them. And two, if I just leave them there, they'll require updates. And they can literally shut down your site. If you had a theme in here and they just let it sit there for like festering for years and years and years,
and
eventually
you don't update it.
Yeah, it'll just break. And then it'll ruin your site. You've never even used it. It's like having some clutter in the garage that eventually catches fire. So yeah. I don't leave extra themes laying around. It's just from experience. Use the ones you're going to use. Now, here's the thing. You could have a theme that you use in October and then go back to your normal theme. So you might have two themes in there, but just be aware that even the one you're not using at the time or that you're using occasionally, that they're both going to need to be updated. So you're going to have to be aware that as the platform changes, as the internet changes, as the codes that do all this change, you don't have to do much more than there's just going to be a little red thing that'll show up once in a while, and you just click on it and click on it twice, and then it'll update. It's just that if you never do those little clicky things, they'll start to fester, and eventually the old code will break and do something weird, and then your site might break, and then it's a real pain in the butt for somebody like Night Strike to try to figure out how to fix it, if he can even fix it. So there's very few things you can do to screw with it.
But he didn't charge anything to fix it, so you can call him anytime you want to.
Day or night, 24/7.
That's not true. Do not listen to them.
So again, themes can be really fun and neat, but there's all kinds of issues with themes. I like to go with a theme that is fairly common, and the ones that come with the system are the most common ones usually. And this one looks fine. So there's the other thing. I like blue. Somebody else likes red. We'll never we'll never agree on what website looks good. So there's never ending. You'll never make everyone happy. You'll never make anyone happy trying to build a website. So build it that it's useful and it works and that you're happy with it, and hopefully find something that a majority of people like. But it's a never ending effort to try to make something that everybody likes. So that's just a lot of advice. Mm-hmm. So we'll start with this one. So we have its general theme. There's not much to it because we haven't added anything to the site yet, but at least now we know what it's going to look like. And we can take a look at customizing it. And no matter what theme you might choose, you have to choose a theme. Like, I don't think you can even run it without a theme. So you got to choose something. So whatever strategy you go with, or whatever advice you take, and you go with a theme, one of the things you'll be able to do is customize it. So one of the things I can customize is this little thing up here that does nothing right now. It just looks like a little piece of paper or like default icon. I can go in here and choose a file from my computer. Let's put Alan Gottlieb on there as the site icon. So now I can reposition and crop this thing down. And now instead of just being a little piece of paper up here, when I do this and then say publish, now this will turn into, I guess I have to refresh. This will turn into a little Alan Gottlieb up here. Why didn't it refresh? Oh, I hit the wrong one. Site identity. Site icon. How about that one? Boom. Do the same thing. So all these little editing and cropping and stuff, you'll get used to what what WordPress can do for you. Now I'm going to remove this one since that one was distracting, but that's where I went to this site icon and I changed the little picture up here. So right away I've customized it. So now our Charleston loophole has a picture of Alan Gottlieb as its little placeholder. So when someone saves this into their bookmarks or whatever, it's always going to have this little Alan Gottlieb. So right away, that's some branding you can do when you customize your theme. If, let's say, I wanted something up here besides nothing, right? If I wanted an image up here, a logo up here, I might go to my computer and let's see if I have a something for there. I don't know where it would be. So we'll use Minuteman University and act like that's, better. And it'll upload it first, and then it's going to allow us to crop it to whatever the theme wants. The theme wants some kind of rectangle-y shape. So I don't know, we'll go with that. We'll take just this little slice of this picture, and then that'll turn into a logo up there. And let's say, yeah, I don't like that. So I'm going to grab this picture and it'll recrop the picture for me. Let's see what this looks like. I think this is going to look stupid also, but we're just seeing, some playing with it. That really looks stupid. So we'll just remove it and we'll just get out of here. And all we really edited now is the Alan Gottlieb up there. Now I can go with a header image, and that's really what I was trying to do, I think. So I'm going to go in and put that same Minuteman thing as the header, and see now it wants a big long rectangle. So I don't know if I can make it any bigger. No, I can make it smaller though. So let's act like this would work for us, even though it doesn't. And now, boom, it throws that across the top of the page. So if you wanted a little bit more graphic to it or whatever, now you got it. Now let's say I don't need all of this. I can go back to my identity, it looks like, and probably uncheck this part. So now I just replace the words with this image. And this doesn't look great, but you get an idea that I'm already like manipulating what it's going to look like. Now these customizations that are here in the theme are going to be different depending on the theme. Some themes are different than others. So some of these are all of them are not, but anyway, these aren't, you're not going to follow these steps specifically. We're really just kind of going through and showing you some examples of things that you can fiddle with. The way that the site works right now, its main page is going to the first blog post. I personally don't like that. I like to decide what my main page is going to do. So I'm going to say go to a static page. Problem is I haven't built any pages yet, so I can't point it at anything. So I guess that's our next step. I could go in and play with the menus and some other things, but since we have to start somewhere, we went in and we gave it an image first, and we'll just deal with that. So now we have the site publish. Now we have the site looking like we wanted to. If I go back over here and hit refresh, instead of just looking empty, now it kind of has let's act like this is the look we wanted. And now we can go in and start doing some more to it. So all we've done so far is go into the themes and then customize the themes. So next we're going to go to posts and take a look at what posts we've got. Right now we have a default one that says hello world. It's super distracting to see that anywhere, so we'll just delete it, and then we'll add a new post. And since this is about Charleston loophole, I don't know, let's do one about what is I spell that right? I don't have.
No, you did not. The L comes before the E.
So if I had my spell check working, it would help me. But anyway, let's say I wanted to add an image here for some reason. I can either grab it from one that's already in the library. I've only uploaded the 2 so far, or I can just go upload another one. Let's say for whatever reason, this was the artwork I wanted, even though it's not. I probably should have done better at grabbing some of the artwork ahead of time. So now I've, I'll cancel that. Why did I hit gallery? Let's say I want to not do a gallery, but insert a picture. How about that? I'll insert an image, not a gallery. So let me delete this section. I added a title, and now it's letting me add modular blocks. That's the new layout of WordPress. So the first thing I want to do is add not a whole image library, but just an image. So I'm going to go upload whatever that image was. Let's say it's that. And it goes and pulls it from my computer, puts it into the media library on the server, and then displays it here on my page. It's pretty easy to deal with. It's going to shove it in as big as possible. I can just grab the handles on the top or the sides or the bottom of the sides and make it whatever size I want. If I need to, I can push that into the center, and then I can add another block underneath of it here, saying something else. Now, it's a good idea for the internet to give this thing a title or an alternate title or a description. So let's say that this was a descriptive info about that picture. For the internet, that's good. And for people that can't see that picture, it's also good, because then you're telling them what that picture is all about. But the internet can't see that picture either. So you're telling the internet what that picture is all about. Internet likes that. It likes websites that describe pictures to you, to it. So good extra step to take there. So let's say that that page is done. Let's say that, we actually gave that page everything we wanted, that we thought we needed on that page, excuse me, on this post. Some other things that we can do is looking forward at how this project might go. We can give this post more than just life. We can give it some categories, and some links. So we can tell it we want it to be in a category called education. So we don't have that category yet. It'll let us create it. So now I created a new category and it's called education. So now we can link together various posts with attributes like a category or like a tag. And tags and categories can be used in different ways to display groups of posts or to collect information from various posts. So once you think of your project as a bunch of posts that are going to be organized by pages, the tags and the categories that you give your posts are going to allow you to collect them from the database and display them. Let's say I'm talking about the gun shop website project. Got whole bunches of websites out there, or I mean gun shops out there that are in the database from this website there. And then let's say I want to go look at the Arizona websites or the Arizona gun shops. It's going to go grab this page on the website is going to grab all the posts and display them as a list. Or if somebody wanted to filter that to something besides Arizona, to Nevada, it's going to go to the database and grab all the posts about Nevada and display them here on this page. So that's how the posts and the pages work to gather and display information, and you use these categories and these tags to help with that. I can give the post a featured image. It may be an image from the page, or it might be something different. Let's just grab that, and I just closed that example. But when I had a list of gun shops, they pull an image, and that is the featured image over here. So there's things you can do to the post to give it some more attributes, and that's what this column does. So whenever we're satisfied with it, I guess another powerful feature here is that we can date it. So let's say this is something that happened 6 months ago. I can go in here, and instead of publish immediately, I can publish that back in 2017. So it's appropriate to the historic date of that project or whatever, or the other way around. What?
You can backdate. You can schedule posts, backdate them, or schedule them for the future.
That seems to be cheating. That you can backdate something.
No, that's actually super cool, because something like a calendar project or a project where you're archiving, let's say, a service project that happened 2 years ago. Now you can date it so that when it gets listed, depending on where people look at it from your website or something, it'll always have the appropriate date. So if they're looking at a service project that happens every year, they're automatically going to be indexed according to their dates.
But how do you know when the article is really published? I mean, what if you're talking about like facts or evidence or something that needs to have a true date on it?
Then you put that date.
Is there like metadata that you can grab to
find out? No idea. This is just a completely constructed thing. You'd get metadata from the images, but there's no except for database entries and that kind of thing, there's no public view of, I don't know, whatever you call metadata for a WordPress page that I'm aware of, or there isn't for any site. So anyway, it's not a nefarious thing. It's powerful. It lets you, again, put things back into actual context. So in other words, if you were trying to create a historical record of stuff, if you had to put them in order, that would be very difficult to put them in chronological order, in order that they happen. It would require you to put your earliest info in first, and then your second earliest, or in order. And then if you screwed something up in the middle, you'd have to potentially delete a bunch of stuff. So this allows you to have things correctly organized by chronologic or by date. But the other side of it, like Night Strike says, you can publish, or you can schedule. So very much like the YouTube platform, where you can post, let's say, a series of videos and then have them go public on a scheduled basis this week, the week after, etc. You could sit down and do a project for your website and have a series, let's say on, I don't know, different pocket knives you own, or different flashlights, or I don't know, different adventures you've been on. And each month you can sit down and do all those articles on a rainy afternoon, but then as you post 12 new posts or 12 articles or whatever, you have those go up every Friday for the next 12 weeks. So you can do a really effective use of time with the schedule feature of the posts, and you can do the same with pages. Yeah, you can definitely do nefarious stuff, I suppose, but this is the internet. It isn't like, I don't know, law. So anyway, that's the post. So now let's say we publish that post, and I guess it's going to make sure that you're happy with everything. So now we, before I had deleted the only one that was in there, so now we have a new one. Let's just add a new post so that we have a couple of things to look at. We'll give it a picture from the library, and we'll give its go over the document and go to its featured image, and we'll make it Alan Gottlieb. So now we've got 2 posts in there. And when we go over to the public view of the website again and just refresh, because we haven't changed anything, what we've got is our second post and then our first post. And again, they're just in whatever order we've posted them. And there's nothing to those posts. They look kind of worthless. It's just a picture really and a date. But if we would have typed something, I probably should have typed something. Let's type something in this one. So right now it's just another post and then a picture. So that's not really useful. So we'll just go in here and type a bunch of stuff, which also isn't useful, but at least we can see words. Go back and look at the public side now.
Or attempt at words.
Yeah, at least where words would be. So now, we've got this giant placeholder image, what it could be template, and then a little bit of words, and then the image associated with it, the next title, a giant featured image. So that's just the way that this particular theme happens to run. When it wants to show you the featured image as big as possible, and then the article below it, the title for the next post, its featured image, and then some more of the article. So that's how the site is set up at the moment, but we're not restricted to that by any means. So we'll go in here and we'll create a page now, and we've got a sample page that it created, and it's literally just a sample, so I deleted it, so it's not in our way. It's got a privacy page for now. We'll just delete that too, but I guess that's just an attempt to give everybody a privacy page. I have no idea if that's because of Europe or not. So we'll just create a page, and I don't know what we want this page to be. Let's call it other anti-2A slogans. And then we can put in there something like gun show loophole. Assault weapon. Or rifle, I guess. Or whatever. This is a big article you write about, other stuff or whatever. Spell it right or whatever. So again, if these are in modules, so there's lots of different ways you can plug, let's say, a gallery of images in here. So this is where I was accidentally going to install a gallery before. This way I'll intentionally install one. And let's say I want every one of these pictures to be in the gallery. It's going to upload all those pictures for me and put them in here. And if for some reason I don't like that layout, I don't want what's his face to be the biggest one down at the bottom there, I can go in and make, let's first remove some of this stuff from the gallery. And then let's make, I don't know, let's take a look at what it looks like now. No, still have what's his face down there. So let's bring what's his face from the NRA down there. So you can kind of manipulate your gallery how you want. And let's say that's our perfect page or whatever. So on this page, we have some other things we can do than we had on the post. Since the page is, I guess, more permanent or whatever in the structure of WordPress originally, they gave the page some different attributes. So we can give it the not this. It is the oh, I guess the one I'm using doesn't have it. So it'll give you different things depending on the theme. I was looking for something on a different theme that they don't have on this theme. So you can, again, give it a featured image. It's Craig for the featured image on this one, and publish. So now when we go back, we haven't really changed too much to the outside view of the whole thing. We still have it displaying those posts, and depending on how you're trying to build your page, that may or may not be what you want. So I don't want it. I'm going to go over to customize again. I'm going to customize the theme. And one of the things I wanted to do before was adjust the home page setting to a static page. We just didn't have any pages created before. So now I can go to that new page that we made and hit publish. And now when the site opens up, it'll go to that page instead of just some random post. And instead of going on to infinite posts, like the main page just exists. So I don't know, I'm probably getting off into too much minutia at this point, but at this point we started with the email that Night Strike sent us, and we dug in a little bit. We set up a theme and we started to play with it a little bit. We could go on and on for a long time, but here's the website that says charlestonloophole.com, and it's being hosted on Night Strike server, and it's using the WordPress software, and we've given it a real shitty rudimentary structure.
Now, G, real quick, can we go back and do one more page?
Sure.
Tony had asked earlier how we would embed a video and whatnot. So can we show people how to do that?
Sure. So here's the video on YouTube right now. And here's this new page, and we'll call it like the best video ever made.
I like that.
And then I've taken the URL from it and copied it, and now I will just start a new block and paste it. And now there's the embedded video.
That's too easy.
It's crazy scary. And then when someone looks at it from the outside, they can watch it.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
That's a lot simpler than Joomla. You have to have a plug-in and put a little bit of code there with the link and everything.
Yeah.
So that's really simple.
Yeah, it's neat. So let's say I wanted to edit that page and include the gun channels page, right, where it's being hosted over on gun channels. So I can take that and just include another block here. And then when I paste that URL, it'll embed it as a link. If I went to GunStreamer and look at whatever the latest video is, Rick's. If I just take the page.
All right, we're live on Hangout.
We'll mute that. We'll go over here again and we'll add another block right above it. And let's insert that and see what it does. I don't think it just likes the link. So that just liked the link, right? And which would just be a link over to Rick's page. But on GunStreamer, you can go down to embed and steal this code out of here. Go back over to your page, and this might be what you're talking about. So now if I paste that code, no, didn't like it. So this time I will embed. How about that? That work? No, just want the URL. So play around with that, remove that one.
You got to add the HTML.
Yeah, there's an HTML block, right? Code block. Throw that code in there.
It just shows the code because you're showing code.
Is it just, oh, that's to show code. That's not HTML.
Click add the block, go paragraph.
Yeah.
Go paragraph, and then on there should be an option to edit HTML of that paragraph.
Like in this little 3-dot thingy?
Okay, it's not there.
I think I need that little 3-dot thing. I just have to click on another one and then.
Yeah, you need the 3-dot thing. And then do it as an. There it goes.
There we go. Edit its HTML.
And just there.
It doesn't like their damn embed. So it isn't 100% awesome yet, Tony. It's better for YouTube for sure.
But you were able to cut and paste the video, so it's embedding it somehow.
From YouTube,
from YouTube, yes.
It knows what to do because it's a giant platform. It knows what to do. I'm sure it'll do the same thing from Facebook. I just don't use Facebook. But a little tougher if you want to link to a page. Sometimes though, it'll take a page and just turn it into like a little poofy looking summary of the page too.
You know how you can go to the actual video and down on the bottom right hand side in the attributes it'll say YouTube URL, the video URL. I bet if you just grab that URL just for the video, it would probably work. Like when you're in the edit mode, or in the when you're editing your video in the Creator Studio.
Do embed. No, click the dots. Click the dots. Edit as HTML.
Yeah, it doesn't like their code though. I'm just trying to get the URL out of it.
All right.
So just a plain old video one? Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
And let me see what that looks like.
You can probably size it.
Probably. Yeah, it didn't like to play though.
Yeah. This isn't me. This is Gunstreamer.
No, this is Gunstreamer versus what do you call it?
WordPress.
WordPress, and just the ability that YouTube has some kind of weird API in their bullshit or whatever. But there's ways to get it in here, and I'm still learning the new. I just had to figure out how to add HTML better, because I can get the HTML. I just don't know what to do to hit enter. Anyway, whatever. So we're definitely nerding out, probably distracting people from the clean cut of it. But
sorry, all. Gary, you're still here, right?
That's rumor anyway.
Okay. Well, from your perspective, let me ask you this. So far, what we've gone over today, how confident are you that you could go ahead and just, set up a WordPress site?
Seems pretty easy to me. I think I could do it.
Okay. Do you have any comments or questions about WordPress or web hosting in general?
I don't know. I mean, I've never used WordPress or anything like that, but it looks like it would offer a lot of advantages. So, to the basic stuff. So, it'd be well worth it, especially if you're not well versed in how to create something. It'd help you get started.
I have a question about WordPress. Back in the old days, when it first came out, you could just, they had free WordPress blogs you could get, but you didn't get a dashboard with it. Is it still that way that you have to host your own website to get to be able to use the dashboard, the tools that you were just using, GWebs? Or do they?
Oh, okay. So what you're talking about is the hosting on like WordPress.org or whatever. So that's there was. I never did it that way because we do it the nuts and bolts way. But if you go to WordPress.org and point your domain name to them, I think they do give you some amount of free stuff. But because it's free, as soon as it gets to be complicated or costly, they draw that line. And then you probably have to have some kind of monthly bill with them in order to get to a level where they let you do the plugins and stuff. I think that's what you're talking about.
I think they just only allow blog type stuff, not all the different options.
I think, in fact, I actually did have an account there. I had one of the IEK domains over there for a while just to explore what they offered and keep track of what was going on, what the competitors were doing, I guess you could say. Because back in the day, we built stuff that was very similar to WordPress we built it ourselves. So when I first started, I think I did have some stuff over there. But like you say, it was so it was like having the training wheels on. There was so few features that it was pretty difficult to be creative over
It was
there.
basically just like having WordPerfect hosted somewhere. You just had blog features. There were no real functionality to it. It was just blog posts, you know. You could insert pictures or whatever in text. And,
All right, so all kinds of stuff going on in the chat over here. So I'm going to try to see what they're talking about. So first off, you guys ever heard of this Edwin Sarkisian? Sarkisian, I don't know how to say his name.
yeah. He's a cool guy. Yeah.
And then I don't know where he came from. He's at like 1 million viewers or something crazy. And he basically just shoots a bunch of frying pans. He takes stuff from video games and shoots it out in the desert. And so...
Good for him.
Yeah.
What
Definitely.
about him? Where is
Somebody called American Military Equals Freedom has been posting a bunch of stuff. So I'm not sure if it's spam or not. Another one is vetsforchildrescue.org. Never heard of it. So trying to post some links, I guess, to spread some word about stuff. Seven Wonders is asking who owns Gunstreamer. As far as I know, Austin, and then Paul and Ashley help him, and then the other guy helps. So I believe there's 4 of them. I met 3 of them, ate dinner with them. They bought me dinner.
There's only one guy that works on GunTube, and that's me.
Yep, you got all 5 of the individuals that run the alternatives to YouTube right here. And then Juice first said, Yankee just gave you a shout-out video. Appreciate that. I think Yankee was asking me about a PayPal button before, so I was wondering what that was all about. So thanks to Yankee for that. Oh, let's see. Enrique says, what about non-YouTube videos uploaded to Gunstreamer? I have uploaded vids independently to Gunstreamer. Can those be placed? Yeah. I don't think it matters where the video comes from. Once it's on Gunstreamer, it's on Gunstreamer. The Gunstreamer doesn't have a system, like a URL system, I guess, that is already in the WordPress system. Like they don't have an API that goes between them, like an established language that works between the 2 platforms. YouTube's the largest platform, and WordPress is basically, one of the largest, if not the largest, in its realm. So it's obvious. Well, it seems kind of obvious why those 2 would already be working together without any additional thing. Gunstreamer is a very small entity compared to those 2, so they just haven't incorporated. WordPress hasn't incorporated an API to just pull the Gunstreamer stuff. As soon as Gunstreamer gets larger and becomes more of a icon on the internet, then WordPress will accommodate it like they do the other things. But till then, this is no indication of nothing. It was just us fumbling around with a new version of WordPress and not being fluent in that yet. But those are the kind of little things that take a minute or a week or a month to get used to, and then you don't think about them, and it's just you move on. And once you figured out how to link stuff, you just keep linking it that way. This is what I was wondering about. Guy is saying something to 7, and I don't know where this all starts.
Apparently, they're talking about the Big Van Industrial Complex, and I'm like, uh-oh. Do we need to silence someone? No, we're not part. None of us are part of the Big Van Industrialist Complex. Okay, so just.
I don't even see the comments you all are talking about.
Well, you got to switch over from Top Chat to Live Chat.
Yeah, YouTube will put you on Top Chat, which somehow limits it to something, I guess.
Good Lord.
And then Live Chat will show you everything, but I don't know where he's talking about the van one either. I'm just going up from the bottom. And Grand is saying that program seems to work well. I think we did a very poor job of getting into it, but that's because you got 7 different bankers trying to tell you how to bake a cake. We should have just let somebody else do it. But that's what the workshops are all about. We don't get better unless we practice. So I'm trying to figure out what 7 and Grand are talking about. Are they going to ban Charleston? I wish there was a loophole that allows us to buy guns without them being in the database. Yeah, we can buy guns without being in the database, but they want to call it a loophole.
Yeah.
Call them status since there are so many rhinos and helps them see that guns are nonpartisan. I got an idea why things are left and right, but haven't. That's what were you guys talking about? I don't know. I'm missing something or whatever.
I just mentioned that Democrats are usually the ones that try and say things are loopholes so they can try and ban them.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because that seems to be the modus operandi.
I just couldn't figure out what this 7 wonders if guns aren't stolen from the military, police, and civilians, then what's available on the black market would dry up. What is that talking about?
About how criminals get guns.
So if they aren't stolen from military, police, or civilians, then what's available on the market would dry up. Where does heroin come from? They don't steal heroin from the military, police, or civilians. That comes from someplace outside of our borders. I think methamphetamine is made here, but the components to it aren't made here. You know, where does that come from? And then what, cocaine isn't made here. It cannot grow in this
That
climate.
was Guy That Comments, not 7 Wonders.
Yeah, no, but that's why I couldn't figure out where he's talking about. But if the concept is that if you remove the firearms from the people in this country, then they will dry up, is not paying attention to cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine, all of which cannot be produced, physically can't be produced in this country in the quantities that exist here. So to suggest that firearms taken away from, law-abiding individuals here will have an effect on crime is the same as suggesting that taking away cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine from the law-abiding citizens will affect the black market. And that is not the case. So why would they think that something the size of smaller than a book is going to somehow not be transferred with all I can't even imagine the mountains and piles and backpacks and 55-gallon drums of drugs that are brought into this country.
I don't want to even think about it.
Do they think for a minute that you can't have a 55-gallon drum of guns included in one of those shipments? So that's a fallacy that they try to put on the people, but I don't need to take a second to there's no way that can actually happen. And if they are going to challenge you with that, then I hope that you have some ammunition, pun intended, to challenge that concept. Because if they are seriously suggesting that it is a position that a lot of people think that if you take guns away from the law abiding, that is the greater good, because then somehow it'll be less available on the streets. That's not even talking about going to Home Depot and having not even a shotgun shell. You can just get the components in Home Depot, from the matches to the pieces of metal to everything, the tools needed to assemble it all. And in a matter of a half an hour, you don't have to buy the stuff at Home Depot. You could gather the stuff in a Home Depot, go into some corner of the bathroom and make a firearm and shoot your way out of there. So the concept that if you take away readily accessible firearms from law-abiding individuals who do nothing with them, historically have done nothing with them violently, then it's a thing that they should always be challenged on. That's not something that they can suggest is a consequence of removing guns from us. Yeah, I understand, but I just figured it was a good point. All right, so I guess Yankee did something, so people are jumping over from that. Welcome. If you haven't seen us before, I'm on Yankees chat every Thursday, well, every other Thursday, I guess. I have a question, but I don't know what to ask. Oh, I would ask a question, but I don't know what to ask. And that's, this is just an attempt at describing the nuts and bolts to get people interested and aware that there's really not too much to a website. So getting away from the nuts and bolts, because I think we sucked at doing it, honestly, today at least. What are the advantages of having your own presence online? I kind of briefly started it all with that, but you guys all have different points of view on it. Maybe you don't agree with me, but Tony, do you see advantage, and what are they of having your own website or your own presence?
Well, you get to control the message. I mean, that's the biggest advantage I can think of. If you have a specific message you want to present, then you can control that message. Was that related to the question? Is that what you're looking for? Or
yeah, I think that's valid, especially now when we see that positions are persecuted, right? If you hold a position that the platform doesn't like and your project is solely on that platform, you're at the discretion of their whim, right?
The other thing I've always not really understood, well, I understand it, but I think other people think that, social media is their base, but a website is something you own. The domain, you own it. You don't own a YouTube channel or an Instagram page or a Facebook page, but you own your domain and your website. So if any of those fail, you still have a base, and all of your all of your social media should point back to your base, which is your website. So that's the biggest advantage I can think of.
Right on. Gary, what do you think?
Well, mine started out kind of as just a way to direct people, and it tied all my social media portals together. But since then, I found out it's way more than that. It's a place where you can basically say who you are and what you do. And now, if you want to see my content, here are various places where you can see it. But it's basically an introduction to you. This is the guts. This is your purpose. This is what you do. And it's the one place you can point people to get started, and then they can go from there. I mean, your social media is basically what you do, but your website is who you are.
And you won't be censored on your own website.
That's true.
It is true.
I've been trying and can't get over here to the mute. So Night Strike, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking if anybody has any more questions, send me an email. If you need help setting up a website, send me an email, nightstrike@gmail.com.
Well, that's a good point. So Tony brought up something that I think is important too. I didn't want to butt in case you guys were going to mention it, but when you've got your own presence, your own place online, your own domain, literally, right? You've got a place that you're archiving your accumulation of content. So let's say you enjoy Facebook or you enjoy Instagram, and phone interface, wiggling your thumb, lots of audience and people to participate with, and the various groups and stuff. It's all great, and for very little extra effort and almost no extra cost, you can distribute your stuff, or also distribute your stuff as you're posting it on Facebook. In other words, you can have automatic systems take place that distribute it onto your website, so that you post something and for no extra effort, it also is happening on your website. So now you're doing your thing and whatever, you got your interests, and for whatever reason that clashes with the platform, if it's Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, whatever it happens to be, and they for example, for some reason decide that everything associated with XYZ is now off limits, and they click a button and it's gone. And it may not have happened to you, it may not have happened to anybody else that you know of, but since that is a potential, the advantage of having your own website is that if that eventuality ever does come true, then you're not stuck with all of your efforts being at the discretion of somebody else's light switch. You've, over the time, archived all of your stuff from those platforms on your own place. And even if you can't afford to run your own website, since it's been in both places, no matter what Facebook or YouTube or any of the platforms that have power over their database and over what gets displayed, when the internet, the stuff that takes pictures of the internet we talked about earlier, when the archives of the internet come along and take a snapshot of the internet, they might take a snapshot of Facebook today, but if Facebook tomorrow removes all your pictures, when somebody goes back to look at Facebook yesterday or the day before, they'll see where your pictures would have been, but your pictures will no longer be there. When you have those pictures additionally archived on your own website, that isn't hidden. The internet archives take photographs of all that, or they have all that. So where Facebook and YouTube can literally go back and retro edit you out of the internet if they chose to, or if they decide to do that as a matter of course for financial reasons or for some kind of a censorship thing, you are giving yourself and all the effort and all your content, you're giving that life, where without doing that extra step, you're literally at the discretion of those platforms keeping your information up there or not.
I have an actual example of that, G-Webs. I mean, I don't know, you remember...
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you guys experienced that. Go for it.
Do you remember repealgunlaws.com? I had a page on
Facebook right here.
I had a page on Facebook. Back then, I forgot exactly how we did it. We owned our own, profile, and then you could have pages. I set up a page for that. And they basically Facebook locked me out of it. You can probably still go to it. I could not edit it. They locked me out of it, so I could not edit the page. And so I just basically gave up on Facebook. So that's why I'm extra sensitive to this kind of stuff, you know, having control over your own content and how it gets archived, as you were speaking about. And it's not that much, you can get into a situation where it's not that expensive, you know, to have your own, you know, to get with NightStrike and get a VPS or whatever you're offering, you know.
I offer shared web hosting and reseller web hosting if you need web hosting.
Yeah.
So that just means in regular English, any size, if you need something individual or if you need something that's bigger, NightStrike can help you out.
Yep.
All right. So something else, since we're kind of talking websites and people might wonder why we're talking websites, just because NightStrike sells them or something. No, he sells them so that people can get into them without, I don't know, extra cost or technical burden or whatever. Let's take a look at why that might be something people give a shit about. So have you guys ever used Google Trends before?
Once.
Gary, you've ever used Google Trends? Tony?
No, I never have.
I use their webmaster tools, but is that part of the webmaster tools?
I mean, Google's got a lot of tools out there. So if you just type in Google Trends into Google or whatever, it'll take you to whatever it is, trends.google.com. And it's a way to harness the power of Google. So Google goes around watching everything and looking over everybody's shoulder all the time to gather information to sell that. And they got so much information and they care so little about it all that they'll give it away. They offer it to people who ask. So go to Google Trends and you type in something like guns. That's a search term, and it's going to find the interest, the people that have used the word guns in searches over time. So let's see, numbers represent search interest relative to the highest point on the chart for a given region of time. So in other words, it's not like 100% of the internet, it's just 100% of the searches for guns. They were the most popular in whatever this was, January of 2018. They were the least popular somewhere in here. So these charts are always going to be, what's the word for, like, self-reflective. So if I typed in, for example, instead of guns, firearms, it's going to be a different chart, and it's going to have a different 100% because it's 100% is always going to be the amount of times people searched for it. That might sound complicated until you search a different one. So now I'm going to put in guns. So how many times people search guns versus how many times people search firearms. So guns are searched quite a bit more often, about a 4-to-1 ratio, it looks like. And then we can see, in additionally, some data or some interpretation versus the time. So you can see there was a spike here in February of 18, where people searched for the word guns a heck of a lot more. And, you know, who knows what, I guess we could think about why that's happening. One of the other neat things about this is right now it's showing us a year. I can go back 5 years, which is kind of neat to see, you know, the trends or the frequency or the modulation of interest in a topic. But now we can go back to 2004. How cool is that? So the end of the assault weapons ban to today. And now we can see that overall, the number of people that have searched for the word firearm or the search topic firearms or the search topic guns and their trends or their, well, the trends, I guess, over time. So we can see that consistently guns is about 4 times more often used than firearms, but we can see over the 15 years that over that 15 years, you know, it's probably its median was up here somewhere, and now its median is way down here. So guns has dropped off dramatically where firearms has stayed fairly consistent. So you guys with me? You see what we're talking about, what the tool is that we've got here?
What would be interesting to see is the demographic breakdown on those, because I'm thinking that people with less experience with firearms are going to use the term gun in lieu of firearm.
That's an interesting subject. So when you scroll down on the page, I didn't do anything except scroll down from that chart, is you start to see some of the stuff you're talking about. So you can see some of the related queries, and then you can see, you know, that gives you some insight, and then you can see where those happened. And you can focus these different sub, I don't know what to call that, sub-like results in various ways. In other words, you can search for, you know, the interest in, I guess, in sub-regions. So you can get into pretty specific things. Google gives you a lot of power here. Supply and demand. I don't know. They're not saying anything on the YouTube side. Where's our gun channel side?
I think
People saying hello, but nobody's really saying anything. So anyway, we were talking about why websites are such a neat thing. So we were looking at the tool, and I just used firearms and guns to give us a representative thing here. But now I'm going to type in YouTube. So if I use YouTube video sharing company, I imagine that's going to probably be bigger than guns. Oh, look at, what do you know? So it's a lot bigger than guns. So let's change it from YouTube or from guns to Facebook. So the social network service, I'm not looking for a search category. Now I'm looking for the company YouTube and the company Facebook, right? So probably should switch those because that's super confusing. Having the YouTube in blue, I mean, how about I spell tube right?
The Google algorithm doesn't like this one.
they may not.
There you go. Video streaming system. So now I'm just going to flip those around so that the Facebook is blue. So it was just weird looking at Facebook being red. Okay, so Facebook is blue, YouTube is red. So that we were talking about this the other night in a chat, and I thought this was super fascinating. So this is in the last 15 years, how many people have searched for the Facebook company or the YouTube company? And I don't know. I found this very interesting. Do you guys see anything in here that reinforces or that challenges your experience or your recollection of how these companies have dealt with each other and the world and been interactive in the world over the last 15 years?
I think it has a lot to do with how everyday people use social media. In that, Facebook is more focused towards family, middle-aged type people, older people. There's more older people in the world. YouTube seems to be at a point, more interesting to younger people, younger generations, the millennials. And I think that's probably the correlation there. Don't you think?
Well, I think it's way more than that, but I don't know. So Gary, Night Strike, is there anything about this, just initially looking at this graph, that again challenges or reinforces anything that you've been thinking?
The usage in Facebook is going down.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. And I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either.
So that's one of the things that, again, these are trends. These are Google's interpretation of how many people search for, but I think that they would be an indication of how, the platforms, I don't know how you'd say, like, are used, or like, their level of interaction with the society or whatever. I mean, this is a slice, but I think it's showing us more than just, search terms, right? It's showing us, it's an indication of how many people are interested in these things. And that's got to have some correlation to how the systems are being used, right?
I'm surprised YouTube isn't fluctuating, because you've got lots of people watching videos and posting videos all the time. So,
sure. And this isn't an indication of use. This is an indication of how many times people search for it specifically. So there's probably something to this that, both YouTube and Facebook are becoming more and more common. You don't need to search for Facebook. You search for so-and-so entity, and it happens to be on Facebook. So people aren't deliberately searching as much anymore once they're common.
right.
But again,
That's because if somebody has a Facebook page, 9 times out of 10, it comes up towards the top of their search results anyway.
Right, so you're not typing in blah, blah, blah Facebook anymore.
Yeah, it used to have to
Evan
do
Wonders
that.
is asking me, please ask him to see how many searches there are for assault rifles. I don't think we're going to get it. If G-Webs wants to, he can.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be even significant. What do you guys think? How is the term search or search?
Assault rifles.
Right.
Versus what?
Versus these two. It's going to be insignificant, right? Like it'll be a little line pegged at the bottom of this. It's not
It's
even.
all guess. I guess it's probably going to be below YouTube.
Oh, yeah. It won't even show up on this, I bet.
It'll be a flat line.
Yeah. So it's a flat line. -1 compared to these. But these are also some of the largest searches on the web. We can look at assault rifles separately, and it would be more interesting, because right now it's just being squashed. Because again, this grid or this graph represents the highest search thing. So this is all being based off whatever date this was that the most people searched for Facebook one day. So everything else is
These numbers are like in the millions or billions, right?
Are you sure this is not more than just searches? Like if you clicked a link that had Facebook in it, it doesn't include links.
No, it's not 100% inclusive. I mean, it's not like an overall everything included. It represents the search interest relative, blah blah blah, a value. Oh, okay, it's just telling us the value of the scale again. But no, this is when you do is as a search category. Here, watch what'll happen if I choose something like guns.
But my question was, this is the people typing in these terms into a search bar.
I've never heard of gunned.
Doesn't matter, because what I wanted it to do was show me this little bar. So these are places. This is some fucking word. So if I go to learn more, it'll tell me what if it's answering what Tony was saying. So terms are when you search the term banana and include terms like banana sandwich. But if you specify banana sandwich, it's going to show up as well, or peanut butter sandwich, right? It's going to, when you do terms, it's going to go for the specific items that you typed. When it's a topic, it's going to be like capital of the UK is going to be included for London. The word Lourdes, which is London in Spanish, will be included. So topics are more inclusive. So I think that's trying to answer your question, that for this search term, it's going to be more inclusive. These are going to be more specific. So again, these aren't perfect ways to interpret usage or anything. It's just a tool that YouTube offers. And when you use comparables up here, if you do search for comparable things, then at least you get, again, not somebody searching for YouTube videos. They're only going to be searching for YouTube, the platform. But again, we're kind of going off on, let me remove this one instead of editing it.
It's a neat tool, though.
Yeah, this is a super interesting tool. I didn't want to get too far off on the topic. I'm going to throw Instagram in here just because it's kind of proves the point we're talking about. So again, Instagram, the social networking service, tiny compared to these other two, but you can see that while these two are both decreasing, Instagram at least has growth. It's not rapid growth, nowhere near the growth that Facebook had. And although YouTube's growth wasn't as rapid, I mean, it was definitely growth for a long, long time, but both of those have begun to dwindle, where Instagram, again, nowhere near as rapid, but it is consistently going up.
I still think you're going to find a correlation, but demographic there, an age.
Oh, there's tons of them. Though. That's the thing. There's tons. So there's also, you're going to that's 15 years. So back here, very few people had high-speed internet. By here, very few people don't have high-speed internet, right? So what, AOL and MySpace, existed here. Phones were flip phones for a big chunk of this still, right? It wasn't until somewhere in here that people started having smartphones. So there's so many things that are part of this, and you can add a couple of different search terms, but there's so many different other things. Anyway, so all I was getting at is when we were kind of playing around and getting into this for on a chat one day, one of the ways that I interpreted this was, again, getting back to websites, that if you are depending on a platform, no platform is forever. And while some of these platforms are massive, I mean, there's something to be said for this rapid increase in growth, that, like anything, you can't grow forever. Once you're gonna hit a market capitalization or whatever, and then, like Tony's saying, you've got generations, because this is such a long span of time. There are grandkids who are never going to go use grandpa's social media platform, even if it is good, right? So there's all kinds of aspects to it. But what I do see is that by depending on a Facebook, because it's so easy, efficient, cost efficient, whatever your excuses are for using it, you're ignoring all the tyranny shit of it. YouTube, again, biggest platform, blah, 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 and all that. It's still a general decrease. Even Instagram isn't going to go up forever, and it's certainly not going to live on this sort of cycle, because this, again, has to do with a massive amount of people were probably getting high-speed internet, getting internet on their phones, and incorporating that into their lifestyle or whatever. And then, for a certain amount of time, and then people started figuring out, hey, I don't need to live on the internet or whatever, or there's other platforms, or there's other things. But I can, from my interpretation of all this, I see the value in having your own presence online, because throughout this whole thing, you're going to be pegged at the bottom, as far as awareness and size and everything. But these platforms will eventually drop to nothing, or like if we put MySpace in there, I don't know what it would look like. I don't think we did that before. So I'm guessing MySpace is going to hump over here and then die off.
What I think is interesting is that they don't classify. I mean, obviously it's a video sharing website, but they don't classify it as a social networking. Look at the titles underneath the categories. All three of those are social networking.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I wonder if I added YouTube and if it'll give me that aspect of YouTube. No, it only gives me video sharing. I think that's just what they call themselves, like on a tax, basis or something, right? Like
those are categories, though, right? Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is that we see MySpace or whatever, we know the history of that, and we've all experienced or at least are aware of it, and it's obviously on a smaller scale, but it looks like Facebook is basically experiencing the same, overall whatever experience that MySpace is going to have. And that's all I was getting at, is if you think that it's lucrative to hang out on the big platforms, I guess I don't think the big platforms are permanent. And where a website can be permanent, it'll never be as large as any platform, but you can then have a consistent place that you create that lives forever, literally, and every digital piece of content you create can go towards promoting your project, your area of interest, your product, whatever it is, and very little cost. And as these platforms comes and go, you can use the platforms as tools, but you're not beholden to the platforms and their whims.
Absolutely.
Have you guys, I would at least suggest that people go to their social media accounts, and I did this when Facebook locked me out of one of my pages. You can download your Facebook data. You can download your data from those, those social media networks, and it comes in a zip file. And if you've got, like, I'll post different pictures on Facebook than I post on Instagram. So I realized that some of my photos aren't backed up. That's not going to be a problem you run into on your own website, right? That you have to worry about your content being zapped.
Right.
Not removed, but there's always, like I say, I've had situations where a WordPress installation will just be abandoned or ignored, let's say, and over time the internet changes, so WordPress has to change just to keep up with whatever, the way protocols, whatever the internet's doing, and that requires your WordPress installation to be updated. So if you neglect that and don't, what'll happen is the first time somebody calls it up, it's like bringing up something from Windows 95 or Windows 3.1 on a new computer. It's just going to act chaotically, and that's what'll happen. It'll glitch. Usually that breaks a database or something, just throws a call out somewhere that can't be interpreted, and then clip, and you get like nothing. So that's about the worst that'll happen, and that can be frustrating, but I mean, that's almost intentional. You really have to ignore something for a long time. There's little things that'll light up and say, hey, you need to update this. You'd have to ignore that for like a long time, like years. But that's about the only thing I can think of that you can really drive a WordPress off the rails, is to just basically get in the back seat and not even put on autopilot. Just ignore it completely and let it spin out of control.
I was addressing the censorship issue, not like structural things with websites.
Well, that's all up to your host, and most hosts will have some sort of terms of service. Obviously, illegal activity isn't going to be taken. And
so you haven't seen. I mean, you can go to one of my pages right now and see that I can't even access it. Right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not being some sort of conspiratorial minded person. I'm saying it's a good idea to download your data, the stuff that you have uploaded. If you want to have access to it later, possibly. I mean, you know that people's pages have been taken down, right? It's not like a controversial subject or anything.
Yeah, but that's not within the scope of what we're talking about.
Well, I don't think anybody's disputing.
The only part I was merely suggesting was that there's a feature that you can go download your data from if you want to back it up. That's all.
Right.
And that'll download like all the pictures and everything too?
Yeah, everything.
Huh. Is that because of the Europe whatever data thing that they made, or was that Facebook just always had that?
They've had it since 2015 when my page got shut down. They've had it I think they've had it forever, but it was just a suggestion for people to every now and then just go download if they're like me, they uploaded I don't upload family pictures to Instagram, right? I use my social media sites differently, but Facebook was like a family. That's where I uploaded family pictures. So I wanted to get those in case, I couldn't get access to them for something, or I just wanted to back them up. So you can do that. That's all. I wasn't trying to start any kind of controversial issue. I was just mainly noting that the feature is there if somebody wanted to use it.
Right on.
So then, got a couple of back and forths here that I don't know if I'm missing stuff. Is YouTube not even showing me all of my comments? Because it seems like it.
Did you switch it from live chat from top chat to live chat?
Yeah, I'm on live. So anyway, I just and these guys might be talking to comments way the heck back. I don't know. Somebody doesn't see that their screen shifted down or something, and so they're addressing something from before. But anyway, Tara is saying, whatever reason, said Google Plus, and then it says, I think a lot of people are getting burned out and don't want to change to another form of media again. Well, I can understand that 100%. And I think that when we're doing shows like this, I don't think anybody has the expectation that everybody's jumping all around to these new media platforms. However, I build things for long term. I look at the internet in two ways. There's the river and there's the lake. I came into the internet when it was a lake, and I think of the internet as an accumulating pond or lake filling with more and more stuff all the time. And that's not the only way to look at the internet. More and more, the internet is a river or a stream where the individual stays at one place and the content comes past them, and they're able to see whatever and discriminate on what they want to see and come by in the river, and the flow keeps happening. And whenever you need to, you can walk over to the lake and grab stuff. But for the most part, most people, I think, are using the internet these days through a phone and through that concept of watching the stream. And because of that, there's a couple of ways that when we create content, we have to think about, the accumulation of data, like Tony was talking about, and any project as it starts to grow, you might have no intention of its overall finished effect or its the final product as you start to just have fun and create. But once you accumulate and you have to look at what you've created, at some point you start to look at it and go, okay, I just completely ignore it, or maybe I should organize it into playlists, or maybe I should put this stuff over here and that stuff over there to make it more easy to figure out. Or this was a series, maybe I should put that in a separate place over here so people can find it specifically, not have to weed through the whole thing. So as soon as you start organizing your content, you get into questions and ideas, and there's ways that we can let each other know as creators and people that have content online how we organize it, or how we move it around, or how we deal with it. And it may not be of interest to, I don't know, there's 22 people watching. This might not be of interest to 21 of you, but we're putting this out on the internet, and it has to be put out there. I can either produce all this stuff and put it out secretly, once a week, or I can do it in a live format. And I try to do these workshops every Tuesday and every Saturday, send out links to 40 something, almost 50 people now that I know in the 2A media that are in the industry and also in the media, and use these workshops to collaborate and chat about these things that may not be of interest to the viewers, but we do it in a way that allows people to know that this happens every Tuesday and every Saturday, so it encourages them to be part of it all. And then we're creating an archive of data, and that's sort of the effort. So it's definitely not designed to be entertaining, and if you are getting burnt out, we're not even trying to be cheerleaders. We're just trying to create stuff that exists so that when people are jazzed up and they are less burnt out and more interested, then this exists. So that's part of the good and bad of live and having a host that doesn't give a shit about entertaining you. I'm here to encourage you and inspire you and challenge you.
I think there's two types of people basically on the internet. One is the person who just wants to use it, and the other person is like us three who who are interested in how it's built, how it's managed, how it's operated. You know what I mean? I was around. I'm 57. I was around when the internet came online, and I've always been interested in how it works. And so there's going to be some people, younger people who aren't even, probably don't even care how, that you could host your own website. You know what I mean? But I still think it's good, and I wouldn't be discouraged by, especially the live chat comments, which are known for being cancerous anyway.
They can challenge, and that's, and we also want to encourage participation, so I don't want to ignore them. But on the other hand, like I say, I want to allow them to know why. If someone says something and we just totally ignore it, they might have, who knows how they're going to interpret it. So I just was taking an effort to explain the goal of the workshops here, and understanding that, we're not putting content out that's meant to reach 98% of the people watching necessarily, at least not today necessarily.
Right.
Clover just jumped in. I don't know if you've been listening, or if you wanted to throw something in specifically about something we've been talking about, but obviously you know about everything we've been talking about here.
Yeah, I've been listening for a while. Well, I missed a little bit.
Did you get the email that I sent out at the beginning? I think maybe my emails are getting spam.
I think I did. I think I accidentally deleted it, honestly.
The first link I got sent me the gun channels.
Well, I mean, I haven't been home long, so.
I'm talking about the email I sent out.
I understand that. I was trying to do all that from the phone. My wife was like, "Well, you already just get on the mobile and whatever." And I was trying to get on from the phone, and anyway, I told you I don't do things on my phone very well when it comes to email and stuff like that. So I think I deleted it because once I got home, it didn't show up.
I know we're talking about Tony. There was like 3 links. One of them was to the gun channels side to watch it. The other link was to YouTube to watch it, and then the first link should have been to the Hangout to join. But I'm just curious if, like I say, I'm definitely including almost 50 people that get blind copied on that, and when at some point email boxes or whatever start to interpret that as potential spam, and they start to spam it.
Right.
All right, so we were addressing some of the comments out there, and let's see. I don't want to discourage anybody from commenting on our comments. It's all just a workshop. That's what it means, workshop. It's open discussion. Again, it's not a scripted show or anything. So we started out talking about building the website. I don't think we did the best job. I know I've certainly done better jobs of just efficiently trying to describe what to do, but we're talking about a fairly complex thing, just in the respect that it's creative. So it's like someone saying, I'm going to walk you through how to do watercolors or how to use chalk and how to draw a picture with oil paints. Just because you have a canvas and you have the oil paints and a brush, good luck at that point, because you're going to get different advice and different experiences from every different painter. And that's sort of the same with web stuff. It's a very creative thing. So as soon as you've got the basics, you've got your domain name, you've got your hosting, and you've decided on whatever software you're going to use. We use the example of WordPress. There's others. Once you've got those basic things, that's like having your canvas and your paintbrush and your colors. Up to then, it's yours. It's up to you. So if you've seen, like, maybe you like the way Clover or Ghost or Tony or Night Strike or Gary have done their website, I suggest asking them, and ideally have a discussion publicly so that your exploration and your discovery and your awareness can get shared with all the other people, not necessarily today, but at some point in the future that might be digging into this. Imagine all of us, I'm pretty sure all of us who've looked into this stuff had the necessity to go online and find a video perhaps on how to do something. Almost always the explanation, the demo is some dumb thing like video games or something dumb. Like, how cool will it be in the future once enough people have efforted that when someone wants to go online and learn how to set up a website, it's with a shooting website or it's with something about guns, so that they don't have to feel like the subject matter is distracting or confusing. If you're putting up a website about pistol shooting to a shooter, the subject matter is no longer a barrier to the thing. In fact, it's actually going to help. And when they see that there's a page for IPSC and another page for IDPA and a third page for cowboy action, and then they're gonna know what those pages are when you're looking at them in the menus and in the inside the admin section of the page. So
Right.
Anyway, that's what this is all about. So I've been reading some of the comments here. We've been getting more. Again, Clover, if you wanted to throw anything out specifically or whatever, feel free. Gary, if we've glossed over anything that might be useful.
Well, I'll hit on something. Since there was some talk, you were talking about the different platforms and stuff there. I guess just as I was jumping in, and Tony was talking about his issues back in 2015, and there was some stuff out there in the chat about the newest things coming along, and this platform looks promising, and that platform looks promising, and that's we need to be prepared, and we need to be learning new things, and we need to be ready for those new platforms and on those as early adopters, I think. But we also have to keep in mind and look to Instagram as an example and several others throughout history that a lot of these bigger companies, once they see promise in something smaller, they tend to snag them up. And so just because it's a new platform doesn't mean that platform is always going to be, you were talking about this earlier with websites and with your host or whoever it might be could go anti-gun or develop policies. And that certainly could be the case. That may be the new up and coming platform. It's awesome. You get over there, next thing you know, Facebook or Google or Alphabet or whoever has bought that company, and now they're going to slowly start instituting the same BS policies that we've had to play with, work around, fight with before. So if you're out there and you think that, well, I'm just not going to get on these platforms, I'm not going to try to learn the policies, I'm not going to try to learn how to play within the rules of the game and blah, 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 I'm just going to wait for the next best thing to come along. That may be a very long way away, if ever. So along with learning these new platforms and learning how to operate them, you need to be on these old platforms as well, because they still have the reach. Even though that they're on the downhill slide, they still have the reach and will give you the experience with understanding policy and being able to navigate the intricacies of those platforms in order to best get your voice out, but still stay underneath the radar. And there are ways to play on these platforms and stay fairly confident you're not going to get tagged.
And use them effectively. I think you made up an awesome couple of points there. And
Right.
the one that if you utilize today's platform and it's not perfect, doesn't last forever, you've acquired skill and experience, savvy. So at the next platform, it's like driving a car, right? If you learned, everybody think back to whatever car you learned in. You didn't go, I can never deal with another speedometer. Like if the pedals are somewhere else, I'm not driving. If the steering wheel doesn't have the same gear shift knob, or the same blinkers, I'm not driving that car. No, you get in the next car, you figure it out. You rent the car, you figure it out. You drive somebody home from someplace and you figure out their car. Everything's got a speedometer, everything's got a pedal, everything's got a brake. And for the most part, it's the same with the platforms and other things we use online, right? Once you figured out one or two, then third and fourth become simple, and then you don't even think about it. You're just, you're diagnosing the platform for its usefulness and not the complication of its interface.
Yeah, right.
But still, all of that stuff is still using other platforms versus your own platform.
Yeah, that gets to what the Clover ended on there, that once you've got that savvy and these platforms are your tools, then you use them accordingly. So yeah, if they've got a policy where they don't want guns, then put all your camping and your hiking and your 4x4 stuff up there, and then pull people over to your website where you have a complete interest, list of all your interests. And now you're actually doing some outreach. You're getting some, Enrique Sonora does a good job of that. He does his automobile stuff over in the automobile forums, brings people over to his website. At least that's, I think, his concept. And then here's my other interest. They include firearms. And then that way you can use the platforms for all their effect and their usefulness, but stay within their terms of service. And I guess it's a whole other discussion on whether or not that's moral or whatever, but I think that's what you're getting at, right, Clover, is use the platforms as tools and
use them as effectively as you possibly can within the confines of the rules that they have. There's nothing. I don't see the problem with that. I mean, we we do things in life all the time where we have restrictions, and you can only get so much out of it. That doesn't mean you don't. I mean, if they come in tomorrow and they said, well, the rules to driving has changed, right? Let's put it this way. Let's say they change the speed limit on the highway tomorrow that you drive every day, and they lower it by 10 miles an hour. Well, does that mean you're going to quit your job and just stay home, or does that mean you're going to learn to drive 10 miles slower than you used to drive to avoid getting a ticket, right? I mean, you're still going to learn to utilize that as effectively as possible, because there's a greater good out there. And just, one person, 100,000 people, a million, several million people trying to stick it to Zuckerberg or stick it to Google. That's not going to have any effect. They're too big. It's not even going to show up on their radar. We can't get people together. We can't get tens of thousands of people together for a rally. So, that it's not working.
I think we're talking, I thought we were talking about the concept of the difference between having your own base or your own website versus using social media. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're going to use social media, you have to use it within the rules that are set up by that particular social media.
Well, I think
the difference is whether you want to, if you don't want to, if you want to be able to have the freedom to not be censored, then there are options. You can get your own domain, your own website, and you can, those are the options,
Yeah.
And simple content management systems allow you to do that. I thought that was the point of this.
What I'm getting at, Tony, and you're talking to somebody with me that I have my own platform that rivals Facebook as well. So not only do I have my own website, I have my own platform, but then look at all the platforms I'm on in addition. So to me, it's a D answer. It's an all of the above answer. We should be doing all of the above.
Yeah.
But our show today was just, it's a workshop. So like I said, there's no real actual thing, but we were just talking about the idea of having a website and setting it up. But beyond that, I don't think we had very much direction. But I think you guys aren't necessarily differing. It's just that you guys are just talking about different aspects of it. But the idea that we have our website as our permanent presence that we own, and encouraging others to incorporate that into whatever the project is they're doing, because then, again, you've got the potential to either use or not the other things that are trendy or popular or useful at the time.
I had a question for Clover. What's the platform that you're talking about that you're
I've had one since a month before the Facebook policies went into effect back in 3 years ago now or something like that.
It's a website.
Yeah. No, it's actually a platform. It's called East Texas Outdoor Network. If you live outside Texas, you're not going to be able to get in. But the original premise with that, and I've been talking with people, I've talked with people, the issue is, and Facebook's gotten worse and worse and worse, right? Since that policy 3 years ago or whatever has went into effect. So we're looking at some pretty major upgrades. I've got some finally after about 2 years of trying to keep it on live support and whatnot, even though we do have people over there that still use it on a daily basis. Hopefully in February, we'll get some additional funding to actually get all the upgrades, get it all back on track. And then I'm going to try to network with some other big Facebook admins and try to get them to kick off similar sites. And I mean, I'll share code or do whatever I've got to do to make that happen within their own states.
Oh, so it's not online yet?
Yes, it's been online since, like I said, 2015.
Well, just tell us the name of it.
East Texas Outdoor Network. I can go screen share.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just screen share. So,
why are you being so aloof?
Well, I'm not being aloof, but I mean, a bunch of people are going to hear this and go over there and get butthurt because they're not from Texas and we're not going to let them in.
Well,
I can explain why with that too. I mean, that's fine. I was
just curious about the platform itself,
Yeah,
just the name FAST is all. He said it before. East Texas.
Yeah. It's East Texas. Yeah, it's ETX, right, for East Texas. ETX OutdoorNetwork.com. And here you can see I'm logged in. It pretty much looks like Facebook. You go to groups, Your groups are categorized over here. These will change when we go through the upgrades and other stuff. You've got a main feed, of course. You've got we go to my profile. You've actually got a feedback and a star rating system on members. So, if you enter into a buy-sell trade, something like that, with somebody,
So this is something that you built from the ground up.
Yeah, this was, plugins and other stuff. I didn't hand code the whole darn thing, So it's
Did
running.
You use a content management system, or is it just?
It's running a social. It's running a social engine software. Yeah,
okay.
And then a lot of hand code and stuff like that on top of it, so forth and so on. Yeah.
So very similar to what we were talking about before. You get a domain name. In this case, though, Clover has a larger computer that is his host, and then different type of agreement that's using more space. So you've got two things when you're talking about a host, and so that we're not glossing over stuff, so that people have sort of a concept of the things we're talking about. Think of a host as like a shopping center or store or a building. Some of us need a whole building to ourselves, right? Some of us are perfectly fine to work in a mall, the internet version of a mall, where Night Strike is offering a store in a mall. He's got one big computer. Instead of having to pay for that whole thing, you can buy a slice of it. You can buy an office in the building, or you can buy a store in the mall. And then Night Strike makes the mall available. He has the parking lot and everything available. He has all the resources so that when people come to your store, it's available. Now, unlike a mall, you don't have to walk past 75 other stores to get to yours. People get straight to you. So the user experience is as if you had your own standalone building, but Night Strike's in effect your landlord. Now, I'm using that example because there's another way to interpret a hosting computer, and think of like a Kmart or something. So Night Strike's got this Kmart, and there's all this data inside. There's all kinds of stuff inside the Kmart or the Walmart, and there's some doors. So there's all these people outside, and then there's all this stuff inside. That's all the videos and all the pictures, or all the blog posts, or all the content that's on one of our websites. And then outside is all the people in the world who might be interested in seeing it. They find us, right? Something happens, like Yankee just did a promotion for our projects. So that brought a whole bunch of attention to it. So people are aware of it. So they're going to go up to Night Strike's building or Night Strike's hosting computer, and they're going to say, knock, knock, let me in. So one of the things we deal with is server space, right? That's how big that Walmart is. That's how big that building might be, or how big your office or your store in that building is. But then the second thing we talk about is bandwidth, and that's how big that doorway is to the store. So if tomorrow everybody in the internet wanted to see your stuff, he'd have to have, a Walmart that was nothing but doors all the way around, just garage doors he could open and just let everybody in to grab that one or two things and get the hell out of the way so that the next person could grab one. And that bandwidth is very expensive. And when we're talking hosting live video, which Night Strike does also with guntube.org, now you're talking about having a garage door that's open so that somebody can upload a big piece of content. So now they're driving in a big semi truck, or more, actually it's a video, right? So it's more like bringing in a train full of content. So now he's got this door open at all times. He's got enough storage space to bring in trains of data, and then whenever somebody wants it, the train goes right back out with all that data for somebody to view. They say, hey, that video's cool, I'm gonna show it to my friend, and then it gets viewed a second time, and then those guys email it to 5 other people, and now that train isn't just in his storage, but it's now being pushed in and out the door multiple times a day. Not in and out, just out. But he's got to start paying a lot of money every time someone sees that thing. So every time you see a view on a video, Night Strike sees that as a ka-ching on the cash register, because that's money he's got to pay to have those doors open. That, if you think about that same analogy, those doors won't do much good if you've got a little tiny, side street that everybody's garage is on. If you've got the kind of stuff where you need trucks going in and out, you need to be right up next to a railroad track or a highway. And that's how much, again, you're paying with this bandwidth concept. So when we're talking about websites, we don't need very much bandwidth at all. We don't need very much space at all. So we're able to pay very little each month or each year to provide that, have that provided by somebody like Night Strike. But I just figured I'd talk about that because when Clover's talking about hosting a platform, that's a little different. It's a much different scale than when we're talking about a website, a single website, and in scale in more than just size, but in traffic. And that's something that it's difficult. You have to start estimating when people are going to use it, how often, if there's enough funding to deal with the spikes or the valleys, in both funding and usage, and 10 times all that scale to get to video. So lots of stuff going on there. And Night Strike only getting, what, $50-something a month on Patreon. Patreon is a crowdfunding platform that allows people to be venture capitalists in the creation of content. And since we don't have a specific two-way funding platform that I'm aware of, Patreon is about the best option we've got as far as individual content creators to have financial relationship with the people that enjoy our content. Now, that, when a street mime or somebody is doing their thing, they're kind of working on tips. But when you've got somebody who's maybe running a restaurant, or in Night Strike's case, running a movie theater, he's got employees, he's got rent, he's got electricity, he's got to pay the place to have the movies, and then people are eating popcorn for nothing. So he's dependent not just on tips because he's trying to make you giggle. He's providing a service, and depending on what you value two-way content out there, and if you think of two-way content as something that happens on your screen as you sit there, then you're going to have a different relationship with that content than if you consider your contribution financially to the creation of content something that accumulates in a lake, something that is being growing on the internet and is adding to a larger thing. If you want to be part of that, if you want to be part of the change and the creation of two-way stuff on the internet, then I think Patreon is an awesome potential. Tony, though, has got a whole another creative way to deal with that. Do you want to talk about two-way fund?
Yeah, it's just kind of my new project I started this year. It's also, well, it's not a platform per se, as Clover is planning, but it's we'll just call it a website at this point, where the goal is to, it's kind of a long story, but I retired the cricket fundraiser to start this. I'm going to use the funds that I was spending to, on the cricket fundraiser, which was, $1,200 or $1,500 a year. I'll put that money now into this. We're going to fund one project a month for the next 12 months. And we call them supply drops. Each month we're going to decide on a project, like, your SHOT Show project was the first for January. And so in February, we'll choose another one. And, basically it's just an effort to try to collect a little money. I'm going to be selling, believe it or not, one of the crickets went unclaimed. So we'll be auctioning that or selling it to help fund this little venture. And, we just hope to, what I really want to do is focus some money on some small grassroots efforts. What's the fellow's name? Tony, the fellow that's up in, is it New Jersey?
Mm-hmm. Simon Says Train.
Yeah,
everyone.
Yeah, maybe we hit him one month with a supply drop, and then the next month we pick someone else who's a small 2A activist, grassroots person, and help them out. So the idea is to get away from totally large 2A organizations, but I just want to feel like my money's going more towards individuals who are trying to do good work, than large, the NRA or somebody like that. So, I mean, the bulk of, obviously I'm still a member, but that's an annual fee. And, I thankfully have a little more money I can spread around and help others who have the time. It's just like you, G-Wedge, you have your efforts are focused on this stuff. And I want to try to help people whose efforts are focused, individuals whose efforts are focused on, they think the Second Amendment daily,
Right on. Well, first off, let me thank you. That $100 is definitely valued. That helped make the decision to even get there. So I very much thank you for that. But I really think it's this cool concept because when you think about, you've been doing the cricket project. I don't know who might be listening to this now or in the future, but Tony's been doing an effort 5 years now.
Since 2012, yeah.
So even more. And every year you basically you collaborate with the manufacturer and some others, and you have a bunch of mostly YouTube celebrities, I guess, sign a stock of a 22 a kid's rifle. And then you would do that as an auction so that it raises funds. And then whoever, wins the bid or the auction or whatever, I guess it's an auction, right? So everybody just puts in a couple of bucks, and then the random person that wins it, gets to possess it, and you usually have a couple of follow-ups. So it's a fun contest, but then you take the funds raised and devote them to a different charity each year.
Right.
And now, sounds good on paper, but you've been doing this for a while. Think about this. You're sending these stocks. I forget what it cost me to send it back to you. 14, 15 bucks to send it back to you.
Yeah, and that's a good price. It usually costs us about $20 to send it one way to someplace.
There you go. You're sending it to different people, and different people, like I ship all the time. So there's no way I'm going to just give that to the guy at the counter and go, I'm going to here, ship this for me. Because then you're going to get raped and Tony's going to pay extra money. So, whatever I did, whatever. And Tony, of course, pays the bills, but that starts to add up. And so basically, I guess you looked at it and you decided that it was costing you something like $100 a month, $1,200 a year to do that project. And for whatever reason, you decided, okay, I'm going to allocate that money. And instead of doing that specific project this year, you're going to do, whatever you came up with, $100 each month to, like you say, boots on the ground or whatever, focused charities. That concept alone is neat. But the idea that you didn't really elaborate on, and I'm focusing on here, is that you set up a website. I guess I could bring that up here instead of just talking about it. But you set up a website to kind of
I was trying to be too much of a salesman.
And it's 2A.
2afund.com.
So again, anybody could do this with any amount. I mean, it's going to cost you something. Tony's got a couple of sites, so I'm sure the site isn't a big cost or whatever. But for very little money, you could set up a site someplace, or even, I guess, do this on a platform. But then you're archiving the project. So what you're able to do there is let other people know. So you're inspiring others to know that this is a thing. Now you happen to pick $1,200. Somebody could take $120 and do the same thing on a $10 scale each month, which is still useful and totally appreciated, and get the same stuff across, or at whatever level, right? Or even without funding, you could do this as each month you're going to focus on a new project that's worthy. And what you're getting, what it's tough to see here, maybe when it's kind of empty, but what Tony's got here is going to be a list of 12 different things each year that he felt were worthy enough to throw his funds on. But then he's given them reach. These are links back to our projects, which are beneficial. When you flip over the internet, right, it's a bunch of wires and tubes and things. So these are the wires and the connections, and that's all valid. That's helping out these projects, not only the financially, but then, Tony's creating some reciprocal links out there, and that's bringing out awareness. So those reciprocal links are to idea is that they're like hooks in the water. They find, people stumble across this. They're directed here by people that are fans of Tony himself. Robots find it, and it comes up as a valid search result because Tony built the page right, well. So this is beneficial in multiple ways, and I hope that people consider something like this. If you're doing good effort, you're putting your hard-earned money to, let's say, somebody on Patreon or one of the organizations as a monthly or even a lifetime member. I try to, when I do my bios, I try to put, the life memberships I'm with, not as a bragging thing, but as a way for people to recognize that those organizations are valid, right? So it's not bragging to post something like this, to let people know about what you're supporting. So we're talking about creating your own website. Have a portion of your website where it talks about you and what you consider useful and valid, and what you participated in, either as a participating member or as a contributing funder. The people that you support on Patreon, all that kind of stuff, the people that you watch on YouTube, it's worth having a section of your content that's devoted to what you consider useful. like I say, when you flip over the internet, it's super useful for the way the internet works, and all those places that you link to are going to benefit. So you're literally doing good work for them. But then for the human being that might come across and look at your stuff and be interested in some piece of content you created, and they go, who is this guy? What's this all about? They go over to an about page, or you don't even have an about page, but if you go over to an about page and it's basically empty, or, to be constructed, or like, just kind of a picture or nothing, then, that's not information. When you put in here something like what Tony's doing here with his 2A fund, that tells a lot about your character and your person and your project, and you're putting that effort out there. Share it. Like I said, it's beneficial to who you're sharing, and it amplifies what you're doing, but it also is useful for the other people that are trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah, if you go to a budget page, it shows, it'll show each month which project we funded. It's basically really just a week old, so it's not much there right now. But.
Oh, there we go. Now, if it makes it easier, you could just make those gun websites every time. That's fine.
I hear that you've got this on a brand spanking new server too.
I know. I was gonna mention that I have a dedicated server now, and I was on a VPS, which is a virtual private server, which is not a real server. You share the resources of that server with other people. So Nightstrike hooked me up with this company that where he stores his server, and now I have a dedicated server that's affordable. I had gunsandgearvids.com, and it was a platform, a video sharing platform, but it was very expensive, and there was no traffic, so I shut that down. And now these are just going to be, I have a dedicated server where I can host, my company website and this website, and I mean, just for information purposes, I use Joomla, which is another content management system, very easy to use, and but yeah, but we'll be. I wish I had known about the dinner for. Did you get fully funded for the SHOT Show dinner? I know you're not talking about all that right now, but I was.
Oh, you're talking about the trading cards?
Yeah.
No, people like yourself, Clover, a couple other people donated quite a bit, and I basically decided I'm mooching off of people. Other people are going, and I'm staying with them. So your efforts got it to that point, but no, I have not sold very much on the store at all.
I was going to say, if anybody else wants to go, if anybody's on the fence, like Nightstrike or somebody, and they could use $100 to get to a SHOT Show, we could use February for that. That's just an offer to somebody if they need it.
Oh, that's very generous. Thank you.
Yeah.
But as far as the cards go, we do have a bunch of them. I think there was 9. I think only 2 people have bought cards. So we did a deck of cards that are Vegas themed for the people that are going to SHOT Show this year from gun channels. And that's what the whole point of the trading cards is, just to be able to pick up the community into the real life a little bit and play around. So we started out with making a set of cards, everybody that knew each other, and then setting up a bunch of people that went to Tulsa. And so we didn't have so many people going this time to Vegas. I don't remember how many decks it came out to, but if you figure Clover, that guy's wife, Sarge, Ghost, Mike, Pink, Marco, Yankee, me now, and am I missing somebody? I might be missing somebody. So that's quite a few decks right there. Whatever the cost of that was, plus setting up a deck for enough people to pay for those decks, so it doesn't cost anything for the people that went there. Then I added $10 basically, and then whatever the amount of decks we sell, that many tens of dollars will go towards dinner. I think we're at $30 right now. But yeah, it'd be great if people want to buy those. You'll have a little piece of Gun Channel's history, and I don't know. There's a lot of people with those little trading cards at this point. We should start talking about how people are displaying them or keeping track of them or what people are doing with them, and then we'll look forward to the next ones. But if anybody wants to jump in on these, of course, they're limited runs or whatever. So I forget, there must be 5 or 6 left. but that'll give us a couple of bucks to when we get together and meet up and eat dinner and pay for some food. So if you want to feed Gun Channels people, grab them from the Gear website store.
Yeah, I've been directing people over there, and also your Spreadshirt shot to try and help you out.
Yeah, Spreadshirt's interesting. We'll have to do a whole workshop on just the Spreadshirts and the cafe presses and the others.
Yeah, that might be a good idea, a workshop to do. Yeah.
All right, so they're seeing some conversation happening on the YouTube side. Is any of that two-way workshop type of stuff, or is it just general conversation at this point?
I think it's just general conversation, yeah. But I think we did it wasn't the absolute most perfect two-way workshop, but I think we did a pretty good one.
Hey, at least we're efforting, and yeah, it wasn't the, like if we scripted the perfect one, but whatever. So that's.
I think it's good if we just, even if we just encouraged or inspired somebody to look into it. I think you did a good job if that's all we did.
Yeah. All right. So thanks everybody for joining. Again, this is just an effort. It was a little frustrating because it would have been nice to see more people that are heading up to SHOT Show join in. This is, the alternative side of this one was to give us one of the last opportunities. Let's see, we probably have Tuesday. I don't know how, we usually don't get a good turnout on Tuesdays. Saturdays tend to be the better turnouts. But we have, just one more opportunity for some of these workshops for people to get together and collaborate, meet each other so that we're not strangers when we get to SHOT. And we don't have to waste our precious time in Vegas getting to know each other and with a stupid chit chat. Let the internet take care of all that and do that at a bit of leisure in the evenings like this, or I guess depends on where you are, if it's evening or not. So what is today? Saturday? I think I was running into somebody else's show, but I guess we're probably not. We'll end it because we've been going for a while. What's this? Creator Summit on YouTube. What's this? Please check out the Creator Summit on YouTube. Amen. With the
Yeah.
The makeup channel seminar.
It's a channel by I think Tyven started it.
Who the hell is that?
Oh, I thought it was the actual Creator Summit thing.
Tyven's another YouTube creator. He does guns and a bunch of other stuff too.
Oh, I thought it was the annual thing where the creators get together. That's sorry, Tyven, I didn't mean to belittle your thing.
Yeah, I thought it was spam. I don't know. I didn't know somebody we know. So, Clover, do you know what this is all about? Are you still here? I don't know if Clover left or not. He might be.
He said he had to bail, so I don't know if he's still here.
His picture's still there, but
He might just be glitched in here. He might be gone a long time ago. So, yeah, we don't know what that is, but yeah, when I clicked on it over here, it just went to some.
He's got a YouTube channel set up for it, so I'll link here inside.
Is Tyven an acronym, or what do you
That's his handle.
Oh, okay.
And then is this something like people show up and attend it, or it's like an online thing?
I don't know the details. I just saw it earlier.
Okay. Looks like it's a channel, and it says September 19, so it's not anytime immediate or anything. There's only two videos on this channel?
I think Tyven just started it, yeah.
Okay. And then it says Creator Summit at Thunder Valley Precision. So that sounds like it's at a place.
I think he said show up and shoot long range out there on the YouTube side.
If you're a company or creator and want to come, please contact me at his email address and visit the website, soon to be posted. Then there's a bunch of links to places that sell stuff and an organization, and then a promo code for places that sell stuff. So yeah, I'm curious, as long as it's not just a bunch of links to sell stuff, then I like the concept of something where people have to show up is interesting. Kevin's got something like that in St. Louis. Tony, did you see about Kevin Dixie's Creator Summit thing in Missouri in Memorial Day weekend? Did you have a chance to listen to Kevin when he was on, I think, Wednesday on the Gun Websites channel?
No, I missed that.
Okay, so Kevin is a just a dude, and then a cop, and then was starting to do just outreach with people he saw through the system and people he knew from the neighborhood, and then as those individual like efforts at outreach started to take up a lot of time, he decided to start doing it as a more like a seminar type of thing where he brought people together, and it's boots on the ground community outreach. Really cool dude. We had him on for like a 90 minutes, or I guess it was 2 hours. And for like an hour, well, most of the hour, he talked about his story and how he ended up enjoying from his law enforcement career. He ended up enjoying the training aspect of firearms training. So from his interest in attending lots of firearms training classes, he ended up becoming an instructor, and not so much like your tactical police instructor, but like introduction to firearms for people that are, not necessarily familiar with guns or have anybody that they know that can, bring them into the gun community. So something like introductory type of training. And then that evolved. And then at the same time, like I say, this community outreach evolved at the same time. So he's sort of got a dual role as a firearms instructor, shadowed over by his outreach. And that's Aiming for the Truth is the name of that project. So anyway, I had him on. He talked for maybe 40 minutes about him and his two projects. And then we talked about why he's doing those projects, and then a bit about how. And then, but he blew me away at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. He had just 7 minutes to talk, and he really shut the room up. A room full of people that are super pro 2A. He got them all riled up, and then he had them all speechless. And I thought that was awesome. He challenged everybody, if they got a soapbox, to give him the mic so he can challenge your audience. So we started by introducing him and his projects, and then he'll be back on after SHOT Show when we get a minute to do it again. I'll have him on to talk about some of his politics and stuff. But he surprised me. I didn't know about. He has a project set up for Memorial Day weekend, and he's out of St. Louis, Missouri. So it's in the St. Louis area, and Memorial Day weekend, and it'll be a 3-day thing. His first day, I think it's for content creators or trainers who want to broaden their ability to do stuff, but also for content creators that want to improve their skill set. So for trainers that want to learn from content creators, and from content creators that want to learn from instructors, it's sort of a way to bring them together in real life. So on Friday, it's a bunch of classes on things like branding and media and efficient use of the platforms, the kind of nuts and bolts stuff we try to talk about in these workshops, which obviously appealed to me. And then Saturday and Sunday, it's time on the range as a student, getting some instructions in order to bring up the competency level of people that report or review firearms, for anybody that's interested like that. So the first day they shared with the instructors, and then the second day the instructors share with them, some competency and some knowledge about firearms handling. And then on Sunday they switch roles and allow the content creators to act as instructors, or allow anybody who's not familiar with instruction to play the role of instructor, and give them some well-rounded experience. And I like I never thought about any of that time on the range kind of stuff. I think that's neat. And I didn't know anything about his project, but he certainly seems like the kind of person that could handle not just the financial boost, but the promotion and the acknowledgement from somebody like yourself that's got a YouTube audience, because Kevin is mostly, neighborhood level people that know people and people that have been to his seminars. He's coming from like real life boots on the ground up into the internet, where a lot of us are coming from internet seeking real grassroots boots on the ground efforts out there.
I'm going to check that out after this is over.
So that was on Wednesday, and I think it was like a 2-hour something show. So I basically followed the cue of James Kalita, who does one of the best Pro 2A podcasts out there. I introduced Kevin and then shut up, and then came back after 40 minutes and went, and then let him talk again. And then, yep, I agree. And then let him talk some more, and gave him the mic. So hopefully it's a good introduction to him and his projects. All right, so I think we were wrapping it up to some extent. Clover still ain't back. I guess he's just glitched in here. What's this link here?
It's the one. It's the creator.
One to that guy. So I guess that guy also left. Oh, he says no, not spam. Show up and shoot long range. Well, come on the show sometime. I guess we can get you a link somehow. If you're not on gun channels, it's much easier if you're a member of gun channels, because we can just instant message it to you. But yeah, I'd be more than interested. You got till September, so we'll promote any valid 2A media project. And again, we want to encourage anybody who's got these individual projects to consider these Tuesday and Saturday efforts to be a resource. I'm going to continue to invite people I know from the years of YouTube and publishing. And I started going to SHOT Show in 2005, and we're going to sit back and listen to history again. Back then, it was tough to get pictures. I met a lot of authors back then, and there was a couple of TV stations that are not TV, but like cable TV shows that would show up, and they would have big elaborate cameras, like television cameras. It was like having the news show up, and it was a big deal to take pictures and stuff. So I knew some people from back in those days, meeting them, and I guess you'd call them bloggers now, but they had like articles in periodicals. They would write an article about SHOT Show, and months later it would show up in the May issue or the August issue of a magazine. So I got to meet some of those people just by being in the media room with them. They would ask, "What are you here for? Like, you're certainly not one of us." And I'd have to, me or Joe or whoever, or Greg, Scott or Shane, we'd have to say, well, we're these internet people, and we'd have to explain ourselves to them. So I got some contacts back then. There was assholes, and there was people that were like, "Wow, that's awesome. I'm glad to see you guys, taking our message to the new platforms," or whatever, the equivalent jargon was back then. Then we got into the years when the forums were the big thing, and it was all about pictures, and there was a big thing between regular pictures and digital. I don't know if you remember those days. There was actually a time when people challenged the concept of digital pictures and whether or not they were valid and whatnot.
Yeah.
Those were great days.
Yeah.
People would take regular pictures and scan them in, and like they were better, but I could do a digital picture like today. It would take a while compared to now, but it would, I could get digital pictures up today, and people did not like that. So that was,
people took digital pictures on a floppy disk.
Barely. I mean, that was a little before then still. By the time SHOT Show, at least by the time we were going to SHOT in 2005, we did have, SD cards. We had larger than SDs, whatever them big fat ones were, but it wasn't.
Compact flash.
But I don't know where I was going with all this other than to say that, things are changing, and these workshops are an effort to allow anybody who's interested from any medium, to get together and collaborate, not just on our specific focus. If somebody's into long range shooting, or if somebody's into competition shooting, or somebody's into bringing the youths on board, or if somebody's into getting the FUDs back into awareness. I was just thinking about it the other day. Think about, especially Tony, you've been around for a while. Night Strike's been around for a while now. Gary and Clover have been around long enough to know, the trends and the history of gun channels. Think about all the people that were hardcore 2A activists just in the span of gun channels that are no longer on the playing field anymore. Have they left? Are they there as a resource that as soon as we need them, they're kind of, got their ear out and they're coming back? Or are they gone? Did they, was the passing
wrong and gotten arrested?
What?
Yeah, there were a couple people.
What? No, I'm talking people that were 2A activists that were, really in the game, were active, and then for whatever reasons have not,
disregard that last statement then.
What the fuck you're talking about? Criminals and shit. I don't give a shit about criminals, but I'm talking just people that are active, and that concept of these using these platforms and using our reach or whatever. I don't know what we were talking about.
Kind of sad. I think it's kind of sad to think that some people may just be like their activity may just be based on a platform and it may not be something that's inherent in their psyche. In other words, if all these other platforms go away, we're still going to find a way to be, 2A activists. But some people are just, Instagram people. If it were to go away, they would go away. I'm not saying that about the people you're talking about. It just came to my mind.
No, and yeah, I'm talking about so many different people that I don't think are, all the same way about anything. And there's so many different things that can affect it. Anyway, I guess that's all I was saying is that, where we do all these efforts and stuff, and I don't know what the hell we were talking about. What were we talking about? I don't know. We've been talking too long.
Yeah. It's all starting to blend together.
Yeah.
I think what you're finding is that it's a very diverse subject. You know, it's a more complicated.
I was spinning off of the concept that Kevin was doing this cool workshop, and whoever it was in the comments there, I forget the name now, so I'm not familiar with him. V something was the Titan guy was saying, or Tivan, whatever he said, was talking about another summit. And these are things that we're not aware of yet. We're out here efforting too. So I just wanted to welcome them if they are doing something that, you know, I've been to a couple of summits now with the Gun Rights Policy Conference, which is, you know, potentially one of the largest 2A media, you know, open resources. And I wasn't invited to either one of them. I what do they call it? Like, what do they call it when you show up? And
you crashed it.
Crashed them. Thanks. I crashed both of them. And you know, so anyway, I just want to let them know that there's no need. I've been to 2 of them now, and we're strangers when we show up in that room. I know who these people are, but I'm only meeting them again for the first time, you know, in passing. But that's not necessary. I know Tony intimately. I know Clover intimately at this point. Gary, Night Strike, you know, we know each other very well, and that's because we're able to have these conversations, you know, all the time. And we
spent like what, 4 or 5 days together.
Well, that sure, but I'm just saying, as far as, you know, knowing each other and stuff, that's all from these conversations. And I'm not suggesting everybody has to live online or anything, but we'd certainly have some tools available to us that we're familiar with for sure. And I just people know that are creating whatever real life boots on the ground types of efforts come in, use these things. Plenty of people over the years have come in and learned from us, and then, you know, whatever reason, taken off and use those skills to do all kinds of great projects. So we're not here for glory or fame, and you know, we're here to share the knowledge and the passion for it, and the efficient use of the tools. So anybody that has these things or is aware of them, pass on the resource to them. And thanks to our Patreons who are allowing me the time to devote every Tuesday and every Saturday to having these workshops. Consistency, I think, is a portion of it. I don't think there's any perfect time to do it, so I picked one weekday and one weekend, and I'm just trying to be consistent with it. We've had some success with people coming in, and we'll continue. Again, I guess I was kind of bitching that nobody showed up, you know, the last weekend before SHOT, but you know, I'm sure people are wrapping up things, and everybody's got their own things going on. And thanks again to the people that make it happen. Snob is out there saying, "We'll see you on the show later." How many hours away is Snob show?
I don't remember.
Do the math. Is it about to start, or is it a while? We've been going for a while. It's 6:30 here.
It is 8:30 here.
8:30. Yep.
We'll go look at the schedule and see when his show starts.
Might be a good idea.
It's supposed to start at 9 Eastern.
So half an hour.
So it sounds like his show's starting in half an hour. He'll let us know. It's like a couple of people have joined gun channels today. Welcome if you're listening. And I guess that's it. Tony, you got anything coming up in the near future?
No, we're just going to try to keep growing our new little project this year. And thanks for the shout out, or thanks for giving us a plug there.
Thanks for the $100. And I want to say, you know, it's easy to say it once you give me $100, but I'd say thanks for the effort and the concept. I think that's something that anybody can add to their website as a page, or on their playlist, or I mean on their channel as a playlist. You can add it as, you know, whatever place, what do they call it, portfolio or whatever, on Facebook as you know, pictures of things. You can Instagram and save them as highlights on your channel. And I can think there's, you know, like I say, there's all kinds of ways you're helping out those organizations beyond just the money. So thanks for that effort. And Clover, I guess, is still not in here. Gary, your show was yesterday, and you'll be in Snob Show, it sounds like.
I do believe so.
Night Strike, you can be in Snob Show?
If he gives me a link. Otherwise, I'm going to be working on 2A web hosting.
Sounds good. Thanks for offering hosting to people that are interested in 2A projects. I think we probably kind of butchered it, but at least we gave you a little flavor, and hopefully gave you some inspiration. And I'm going to challenge you to do more stuff in 2019. This is a year we can either have front row seats to watch it burn, or we can use the power of First Amendment to save our second.